It all starts with an impatient mobster complaining about a late food delivery while messing with his phone. Right then, he glares at the tracking screen and whines that kids these days just don't know how to work properly. Pacing around the warehouse, the mobster gripes that nobody does their job right anymore and that everyone should put in more effort. Right after, he wonders out loud if the world wouldn't be a better place if everyone were pro, asking his hostage for their opinion. At that moment, it's revealed there's a guy tied upside down to a warehouse beam, about to get roughed up by the criminal. The mobster claims he's just doing his job professionally, while the gagged hostage tries to scream. Continuing his villain monologue, he says the hostage ended up in this sorry state exactly because he wasn't a professional. Annoyed by the mumbling, the kidnapper tells the guy not to move to avoid a wrong swing, sending him packing early. With the hostage in pure panic, the criminal explains he got clear orders to beat his victim as much as possible before finishing the job. Just as he raises his bat to swing, a voice from the warehouse entrance announces that the food delivery is here. Stopping the attack, the mobster complains about the insane delay and calls the delivery guy trash for showing up at such a perfect time. Then, glaring at the intruder, the criminal asks who he thinks he is to just waltz in like that. Standing at the entrance, a dude in an orange jumpsuit and a motorcycle helmet casually says the mobster's goons should have been keeping watch outside. Silence fills the room for a few seconds, while the mystery behind the helmeted guy's identity lingers. Ignoring the questions, the delivery guy casually strolls in, leaving the mobster wondering how he even made it past security. Crouching down calmly, the delivery guy places the food box on the floor before getting ready for what's about to go down. Looking around, he starts counting out loud how many bad guys are in the room, while the goons stand there completely confused. On his phone, the guy calculates the number of opponents and adds an extra fee for the night shift in the weapons they're packing. The mobster loses his patience, points at the delivery guy and yells, demanding to know what he actually came to the warehouse to do. Without a single ounce of hesitation, the helmet guy just looks at the criminal and replies that he came to throw hands. He goes on to explain that he needs to beat up everyone there to get paid for the gig he was hired for. Wasting no time, the criminals pull out their sharp knives and say it's all just business, nothing personal. Face to face with the weapons, the delivery guy just finds it funny and calls it a bunch of nonsense before the brawl kicks off. Starting the fight, the guy lands a clean kick right to the face of the first goon who tries to step up to him. Right after, he catches the second opponent with a brutal punch to the face, giving him zero time to react. Quickly dodging a knife swipe, the delivery guy shows off some crazy reflexes to avoid the fatal strike. Taking advantage of the opening, the MC firmly grabs the arm of the criminal who tried to hit him. With his opponent locked in, he delivers a heavy punch straight to the ribs to totally neutralize him. Applying even more force, the delivery guy finishes the fight with that goon by hitting him with a strike that sends him flying. Then the shot zooms out, showing the guy completely surrounded by the rest of the gang, ready to take them all on by himself. Letting them know he's in a rush, the guy says he needs to wrap this up fast so he can head to his next gig. With his fists clenched, the delivery guy calls out all the goons at once to speed up the process. Freaking out, the head honcho watches his men get clapped one by one with ridiculous ease. Sweating bullets, the gang leader can't wrap his head around what kind of monster just busted into his warehouse. After wiping the floor with everyone, the helmet guy comes face to face with the boss, who mutters in disbelief that none of this makes sense. Desperate, the mobster screams, asking who sent the delivery guy and how much they're paying him to do this. Trying to bargain for his own skin, he offers to pay double or even triple the amount if the delivery guy just stops the attack. Totally ignoring the offer, the MC shuts the criminal up with a massive punch that absolutely shatters his glasses. While the enemy drops to the floor, the guy casually mentions that taking a bribe would violate his app's terms of service. Grabbing the gang leader's knocked-out body, the young dude drags him to officially wrap up his shift. He then pulls out his phone to snap a picture of the finished job, exactly like the delivery company's protocol demands. On the screen, the photo shows the defeated mobster next to the delivery guy giving a solid thumbs up. Satisfied with the pic, the guy hits send on the proof of delivery and immediately starts planning his next stop. Meanwhile, the hostage still hanging upside down starts mumbling frantically, trying to get the orange guy's attention. Hearing the noise, the delivery guy walks over and rips the tape right off the tied-up hostage's mouth. As soon as he can speak, the hostage whines that the guy took way too long and demands to be untied right away because his head is spinning. With zero patience for the yelling, the tied-up guy keeps pressing, asking if the delivery guy went deaf and ordering him to let him down right now. Looking at his phone, the delivery guy simply replies that rescuing people isn't part of the package he was hired for. Completely ignoring the desperate screams of the guy begging not to be left behind, the dude turns his back and starts walking away. To shut the annoying hostage up, the delivery guy just shoves a piece of food in his mouth before heading out. He then introduces himself as Lee Sang, the delivery heaven courier, and tells the guy to put in an official order if he wants him to do a job. Revealing part of his face, the young dude says he'll take any fighting gig, as long as the payout is actually good. On the delivery app, the system pings that a new mission is up for grabs for the elite courier. With his hands bruised from the fights, the guy goes back to his simple routine of accepting calls and fighting whoever gets in the way. Receiving a fat stack of cash as a reward, he makes it clear that his real goal is to make bank off these brawls. It's been about 2 years since he started working in this super weird profession of delivering beatdowns. While walking down the school hallways, the MC reflects on how he's always been insanely skilled at what he does. Even though he's just an 18-year-old student named Lee Sang, he was already pulling in a serious amount of cash. Glued to his phone, the young student starts researching investments and the real estate market for his future. On the screen, Lee Sang's ultimate goal is crystal clear, buying a luxury condo in Seoul before he hits 20. Freaked out by the prices, the guy realizes housing costs have spiked even more and complains about how expensive everything is. Right after, he gets a deposit notification for over 1 million won, bumping his balance up to more than 50 million won. Walking deep in thought, Lee Sang sighs, knowing that at this rate, getting his own place anytime soon is gonna be nearly impossible. With fighting gigs drying up lately, he notices his profits have been pretty weak, even for a hardworking student. Facing this rough financial spot, the MC starts thinking about picking up some urgent side hustle. Looking out the school window, he complains to the sky, begging for a solution to drop out of nowhere. Wishing a pile of cash would fall straight from the heavens, the young dude doesn't even notice a girl crashed on the floor right next to him. Spotting the weird commotion nearby, the guy looks down and tells the troublemakers to knock off the nonsense. Right there, a group of bullies surrounds the fallen girl, and the chubby leader sarcastically pretends to care just to mock her. The other goons laugh at the whole thing, joking about how their boss can be so aggressive yet talk so softly to his victim. Glaring right at the bullies, the girl on the floor shows she isn't even slightly scared of this bunch of idiots. Triggered by the girl's defiant look, the bully loses it and asks if she really thinks she can stare him down like that. Throwing a taunting kick, the aggressor tells her she's in no position to act proud and should just face reality. Humiliating her even more, he brings up how her dad passed away leaving nothing but a mountain of debt and that she's totally broke. To wrap up his toxic speech, the bully says the favor he's asking from her really isn't that hard to do. The chubby bully Seongseon keeps pressing the girl, saying he just wants her to be his woman. Furious, the young girl snaps back, saying she wouldn't accept that even if he paid her all the money in the world. But a voice calls them out from behind, suddenly cutting the bully's conversation short. Staring the group down, Lee Sang orders the bully to apologize to the fallen girl right this second. Hearing that, the chubby guy gets ticked off by the dude's audacity and asks who he thinks he is to talk like that. Panicking, the sidekick recognizes the young guy and warns his boss not to pick a fight with Lee Sang under any circumstances. He keeps begging the leader to just apologize quickly, explaining that even the seniors at school are terrified of him. Seongseon totally ignores his buddy's warning and states he has zero intention of apologizing. Then he steps toward the MC and mockingly asks if he's the girl's boyfriend. Showing absolutely no reaction, Lee Sang just keeps staring at the bully with total indifference. Annoyed by the silence, the chubby kid pulls out a box cutter and asks if the guy is gonna keep staring at him like that. He completely loses it and threatens to carve the MC's eyes out right there with the blade. Terrified of a disaster, the sidekick smacks his own boss hard on the back of the head to make him stop the madness. With that, the buddy drags the dizzy leader away while desperately apologizing on his behalf. However, Lee Sang lets them know the apology should be aimed at him, not the girl. Suddenly, the MC tosses a small business card right onto the head of the fallen girl. Walking away calmly, he tells her she can call him if she ever needs help beating anyone up, as long as she pays for the service. He even offers a special 2% discount if her financial situation is super tight. Left alone in the school hallway, the girl stays seated in silence, just staring at the paper she got. Grabbing the card, she reads the contact info for the guy's delivery and brawl service. Still super confused by the whole thing, she sits quietly, processing what just went down. Right after, the school bell rings, marking the end of classes, and students start heading home. On his phone, the clock hits a little past 6 in the evening, and not a single job notification pops up. Frustrated next to his bike, Lee Sang complains about not getting any service calls today. He sighs watching the sunset and mutters to himself about how ridiculously hard it is to make a buck. Staring at the massive city packed with modern skyscrapers, he really feels the inequality of the place. He complains about not owning even a single apartment of his own surrounded by all that wealth. Just then, the silence is broken by the delivery app pinging with a brand new opportunity. Surprised by the notification, he sees a mission with a crazy high payout for the Gangnam area. Hyped about the chance, he decides to check the route details so he can go knock out the gig immediately. Seeing the final destination on the map, the MC is blown away by the exact location of the order. He's faced with the massive Gangnam Tower Palace, one of the most luxurious buildings in the entire city. Looking up at the sky, he comments in awe that you can't even see the top of that gigantic structure. With that, the young guy packs his stuff, totally pumped to finally get a peek inside the building. He starts putting on his pro-delivery jumpsuit to get properly geared up for the task. Next, he throws on his black protective helmet to keep his identity completely hidden during the job. Adjusting his black combat gloves, he makes sure he's ready for whatever comes his way. For the first time in forever, the guy feels super motivated because of how fat the reward is. Determined to finish the job fast, he decides to head straight for the target without wasting another second. He strolls down the building's fancy hallway, thinking about the easy cash he's about to make from this gig. Arriving at the 30th floor, the elevator dings open, showing the guy finally made it to the luxury penthouse. He wonders what kind of rich person living in a place like this could possibly make so many dangerous enemies. With that, he opens the apartment door and quietly steps inside to handle his special delivery. Standing at the entrance of the huge, dark living room, the delivery guy announces his arrival out loud, waiting for a reply. But the dead silence creeps him out, and he wonders why every single light in the place is turned off. Using his phone's flashlight, he lights up the path to try and get a better look at his surroundings. Suddenly, the light reveals that all the vases and valuables in the house are covered in red foreclosure stickers. Curious about the owner's bankruptcy, the guy keeps walking carefully through the dark apartment. Deciding to take off his helmet to see better, he complains about how dark it is and all these stickers everywhere. He lets out a tired sigh, trying to wrap his head around what's actually happening in this creepy penthouse. Without him noticing, silent footsteps start creeping up behind him in the pitch-black room. A group of masked guys armed with knives steps out of the shadows, ready to jump the intruder. The first attacker lunges, throwing a quick strike to try and hit the delivery guy in the back instantly. With insane reflexes, Lee Sang dodges the attack and fires back, landing a brutal hit right on the enemy's face. From the devastating impact, the masked guy drops completely knocked out on the living room floor in one shot. Staring at the knocked-out opponent, the MC mutters, totally confused as to why he's getting jumped like this. Right after, he spots the other goons and notices they don't look like the owners of the place at all. He then pulls out his phone to recount the enemies, complaining that he'll have to charge extra fees for the hassle. On the flip side, the goons realize he's just a kid, but go on high alert seeing he's clearly not your average target. The group's leader orders everyone not to give him an inch and to jump him all at once to finish him fast. Kicking off the brawl, the guy blocks a strike and lands a heavy kick right to the chest of the first goon stepping up. Without taking his eyes off his phone, he calmly keeps counting the number of opponents while fighting. The criminals are mind-blown seeing the delivery guy casually dodge their game-over strikes so easily. Ticked off by the kid's disrespect, one of the attackers tries to bring a strike down from above with pure rage. But the MC firmly catches the attacker's arm midair, stopping the hit before it even connects. Taking the opening, he unleashes a lightning-fast combo of punches to the opponent's gut with insane power. Right then, he launches another goon's body with a brutal spinning kick, sending him crashing straight into the wall. Next, he uses a nearby metal beam to launch himself and keep bringing the heat to his rivals. Using the iron structure, he delivers a heavy downward strike right onto another opponent's head. The masked leader watches in pure shock, seeing how easily the young kid is dropping his crew. Not even breaking a sweat, Lee Sang updates the head count on his phone, confirming he's already taken out 5 of them. Then he lands a beautiful front kick that sends yet another attacker flying across the room. Suddenly, a massive jacked goon grabs the MC from behind, locking his arms in a tight bear hug. The big guy brags that quick dudes like him are easy to handle when you use brute strength and a weight advantage. But he starts panicking when he realizes the kid is way stronger and heavier than he actually looked. Feeling the absurd power behind Lee Sang's flex, the big guy is stunned, wondering where all this physical strength is coming from. Creeped out by 2 dudes hugging from behind like that, the young guy squeezes the opponent's arm even harder, making him groan in pain. With a scream of pain from the attacker, he easily breaks free from the hold by flexing his crazy physical strength. Meanwhile, the masked leader watching from the sidelines angrily asks why the rest of the goons haven't jumped in yet. Staring down the last standing criminal, Lee Sang mockingly asks if he'd prefer the delivery guy to come to him instead. Freaked out, the criminal realizes this kid is an absolute monster and tries to back away, shaking with fear. Meanwhile, the fancy hallway of apartment number 8001 stays completely silent. Suddenly, the last goon's body is violently thrown out, absolutely wrecking the luxury apartment's door. Looking at the mess, Lee Sang checks his phone and confirms he just beat exactly 7 opponents. On the floor, the last defeated criminal just groans in pain, totally unable to get up after that beatdown. But the young guy realizes the head count isn't over yet and senses there's someone else hiding nearby. Right then, he throws a lightning-fast punch that stops just millimeters away from the face of another person who popped up. Surprised when he looks over, the delivery guy recognizes the person's face and instantly halts the punch. The student is also totally spooked, realizing who was just about to punch her lights out. Staring at the guy, she asks, super confused, what he's doing in a luxury penthouse like this. With total indifference, Lee Sang throws the question right back, wanting to know what she thinks he came here for. Flashing her phone screen with the order, the girl reveals she's the one who booked his fighting services. She explains that the guys on the floor were hitmen sent to get her, which made this job pretty rough. Impressed that he beat everyone without a single scratch and without taking anyone out permanently, she says the guy is perfect for the job. Totally lost, Lee Sang is confused by the girl's random comment. Keeping a serious look, the student gets ready to make a major pitch to the delivery guy. Straight up, she proposes that the two of them team up from now on. Bringing up the very real danger she's in, the girl says she wants to officially hire him for his muscle. She swears the tasks won't be much different from what he already does, but he gets annoyed and asks what she's even talking about. He makes it crystal clear that he doesn't do the full-time bodyguard gig, because that goes completely against his rules. Countering his rejection, the young girl brings up that she heard the school bully say earlier that Lee Sang's family went broke. Then, she suggests he should probably worry about his own financial situation before turning down work. Looking the kid right in the eyes, she waits to see if the money talk will finally change his mind. Annoyed, the delivery guy complains that hardly anyone uses physical cash these days, but tells her to pay up already. On top of that, the young guy warns that the fee spiked way up because of the extra goons and demands the full amount with 0 discounts. Suddenly, a massive brick of cash drops hard onto the floor right in front of him. A ridiculous amount of money starts pouring out, scattering all around the young delivery guy's feet. Mind blown by the sight, he hears the girl offer the insane amount of 100 million won for every completed job. Disregarding his rules, she states she needs his physical strength and that he clearly needs her cash. She wraps it up saying the important thing is that their goals line up so this partnership can work out. Holding one of the stacks of bills, Lee Sang can barely believe he's looking at so much cold hard cash. He questions if there's really 100 million won in physical cash sitting right there in his hands. Seeing the delivery guy's reaction, the student mockingly points out that his attitude just improved a whole lot. Dead serious, the MC says he just needs to ask one more question before making his final call. Staring at the kid, the young girl wants to know once and for all if he's taking the deal or not. As the night covers the massive city, the movement on the streets stays calm and quiet. Inside an empty bank lobby, the ATMs glow waiting for the next customer. Parking his bike outside, the delivery guy walks in to handle his unfinished business. Holding just a single 50,000 won bill, Lee Sang closely inspects the paper in his hand. Focused, he gets ready to deposit the cash he just made from the gig. Then he slides the paper into the machine to instantly confirm the transaction amount. The ATM starts processing the deposit while the young guy waits for the system to respond. Mechanical sounds echo from the machine as it counts the cash dropped in by the young courier. Tense, he watches the screen closely, hoping everything goes smooth with the bank transaction. On the screen, the system confirms the 50,000 won deposit and updates his balance to over 52 million won. Seeing the bank's thank you message, Lee Sang freezes completely, totally speechless. Shook, he realizes that the giant stack of money he got was 100% real. Flashing back to 2 hours earlier, the student repeated her question, demanding an answer from him. Keeping her defiant glare, she waited to see if he'd take her up on the partnership. Staring at the mountain of cash scattered on the floor, the guy tried to process the unbelievable situation. After a few seconds of silence, the delivery guy makes his final call on the proposed deal. Straight up, he agrees to partner with the girl under the terms she laid out. Then he starts scooping up the bills super fast so he doesn't leave a single one behind. But suddenly, he kicks all the money away and calls her an idiot for thinking he'd fall for that. While the bills flutter in the air, the kid ironically admits her little act almost had him fooled for a sec. Holding up one of the fake bills, Lee Sang gets ready to expose the girl's scam once and for all. He confidently declares that all the money scattered on the floor is totally fake. Explaining that the smell, the texture, and the color give it away, he asks if she really thought she could play him. Plus, the delivery guy brings up that the school bully said her family went bankrupt, proving she has no cash. Quiet for a moment, the student asks if he's seriously turning her down and warns him he's gonna regret it. As a response to her threat, Lee Sang simply flips her the bird, showing zero respect. Walking away, the guy says he'll waive the delivery fee as a favor and tells her not to talk to him at school. But her warning echoes in his head now that he realizes every single bill in that stack was legit. Freaking out, he slams his head against the ATM glass, wondering if he should crawl back and beg for the deal. Deeply regretting his massive screw-up, the young dude wonders if he'll ever get another chance to make that kind of money. Switching his focus to his phone, the guy tries to cheer himself up, thinking new money-making opportunities will pop up. Opening his investment app, he sees that the crypto he bought a few days ago is mooning non-stop. Amazed by how fast it's climbing, he notices the digits in his balance just jumped out of nowhere. Laughing out loud from pure joy, the young guy celebrates his successful investment and starts planning to buy his luxury penthouse. But the hype is short-lived when the chart suddenly tanks, showing a loss of almost 100% of its value. In absolute despair, the guy just stands there in front of the ATM, not knowing what to do with his life after losing everything. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoes down the street as he takes all his frustration out by smashing the glass of the booth. Holding his phone, Lee Sang looks at the mess he just made and realizes the colossal mistake he did in the heat of the moment. With that, the young guy just freezes while the witnesses around start running away, terrified by the chaos. Right then, the cops show up fast and decide to cuff the kid, even after noticing he's still a minor. Down at the station, the officer starts firing off questions, wanting to know if his master plan was actually to rob the bank. The cop explains he'll have to pay for all the damages in 1 week and tells the kid to count himself incredibly lucky. Hearing the conditions from the police, the MC goes into shock, realizing the size of his new financial hole. Looking at the paper in his hands, he sees the ridiculous bill for almost 10 million won for the damages to the booth. Walking alone down the dark street, the young guy in the orange jacket drags his feet, feeling the crushing weight of this new debt. Staring at the city skyline, he realizes his financial situation, which was already bad, somehow just got way worse. The next day at school, a desperate voice pops up begging for just 1 minute to sort out yesterday's mess. Looking completely wrecked with dark bags under his eyes, Lee Sang tries to explain himself for what he told the girl yesterday. He keeps begging for Seonha to give him another chance, so he can take back everything he said about turning down the job. Faced with all the kid's drama, the student just stares at him with a cold, completely indifferent look. Right then, the school bullies show up out of nowhere and start mocking Lee Sang, not understanding what he's doing there. The gang leader says the timing is perfect, since he was already planning to hunt the guy down to give him a beatdown. He keeps bragging, claiming he brought actual fighters to wipe the MC off the map for good. With that, the bully gets ready to restart the fight they couldn't finish the day before. But totally out of nowhere, Lee Sang lands a brutal kick on one of the goons while Seonha calmly watches everything. The other criminals panic seeing the tough Hyo Minseop get clapped so effortlessly by the guy. Furious, one of the dudes charges at the MC, asking if he completely lost his mind acting like that. Throwing another punch, the delivery guy sarcastically explains he was just test driving the proposal before accepting it for real. While easily dodging his opponent's attacks, he points out it's normal to be cautious when there's that much money on the line. Dropping another goon, Lee Sang offers to take half the proposed amount and suggests she pay him directly through the app. He even asks if he could get a 10 million won advance to cover a super urgent financial emergency. Then the girl just messes with her stuff in silence, while the guy anxiously waits for her reply. With all the enemies knocked out on the floor, the MC holds out his hand and asks for the contract so he can sign it right now. Staring the guy down with dead seriousness, Seonha seems to analyze the situation before making her next move. But to the guy's surprise, the young girl suddenly turns her back and starts walking away without saying a single word. Freaking out at her reaction, Lee Sang chases after the girl, begging her to wait and accept his help from earlier. Stopping dead in her tracks, Seonha turns around and starts speaking with an incredibly bossy tone. She points out that the guy spent all this time talking to her with total arrogance and disrespect for absolutely no reason. With that, the student demands he change his attitude and ask for the job with the proper manners and respect. While people around whisper, totally confused by the scene, the young girl insists he needs to respect their professional relationship. She warns that if he can't do that, he might as well forget it, leaving the guy feeling super humiliated by the whole thing. Walking over to the knocked-out bully leader, the girl gets ready to teach the aggressor a lesson he'll never forget. Digging through her school backpack, she starts looking for a specific item to use on the enemy laid out on the floor. She drops the fallen bully's name and says he needs to learn a serious lesson about respecting people. Pulling a set of hair clippers out of her bag, she leaves the delivery guy absolutely horrified at how cruel the punishment is. Meanwhile, far away, a beautiful sunny day lights up a fancy golf course packed with powerful businessmen. A group of suited assistants starts clapping like massive suck-ups after an excellent swing from their boss. The intimidating Heo Yonggang, president of a huge steel company, stares at the course with a lit cigarette in his mouth. Glaring at his employees, the businessman seriously asks if he happens to look like a kind-hearted person. When his subordinates say no, the man angrily states he won't tolerate being disrespected by absolutely anyone. The businessman complains that the world is full of useless people who aren't even worth half the paycheck they get to work. Suddenly, his moment of reflection is interrupted by his phone blaring from inside his pants pocket. Pulling the device out, he sees the call is from his precious son and instantly drops his grumpy attitude. All affectionate, the man answers the call, asking if his beloved son is calling to ask for more spending money. But the businessman's happy face vanishes when he hears the shaky, desperate tone of the kid on the other end. Crying out of pure embarrassment while locked in a bathroom, Heo Minseop says he wants to destroy the girl who did this to him. The dad asks if she's the daughter of his old business rival that he's been hunting for all over the city. Through sobs, the kid explains he got beat up and that the girl used clippers to shave the middle of his head by force. He keeps crying and complains that photos of him passed out and bald are already all over the school's social media. Devastated by the public humiliation, the young guy says he'll never have the guts to show his face at that school again. Listening to his son suffer, Heo Yonggang bites down on his cigarette in pure rage while plotting his revenge against the girl. He tries to calm the kid down, promising he'll handle everything personally and telling him not to worry about a thing. Right after hanging up the phone, the businessman shoves the device away roughly with a killer look in his eyes. Then he mutters to himself, repeating the name of the girl who dared to humiliate his family so outrageously. Glaring at several goons buried up to their necks in the grass, he mockingly asks how they plan to take responsibility for their screw-up. The businessman humiliates his buried men, calling them incompetent for not being able to handle one simple teenage girl. With that, the man lines up his club to take a golf swing right at a ball, sitting perfectly on one of his terrified subordinates' heads. Taking a brutal swing, the businessman states that street trash like them can't be trusted to do business. After the savage hit, he shifts his gaze to acknowledge a new person who just arrived on the course. A delivery guy in blue gear named Bae Minjun ironically comments that playing golf looks way harder than he thought. He guarantees he'd rather stick to his own job, which consists of beating people up for fun and easy cash. The businessman agrees with the kid and states that his fighting skills are exactly why he called him out there. Handing over a black briefcase, Heo Yonggang asks the young mercenary to fix this personal problem once and for all. The case pops open, revealing a ridiculous amount of cold hard cash as payment for the requested hit job. Staring at the glow of the golden bills, the elite delivery guy Bae Minjun looks very interested in the generous offer. Suddenly, he starts laughing out loud, totally mocking how serious the mobster businessmen at the course are acting. Wiping away tears of laughter, the guy makes fun of the fact that the businessman is acting so amateurish to place an order. Showing his phone screen, Bae Minjun explains that every job has to go through the official app so the couriers can accept it. He even mockingly asks if that huge company is run by idiots who don't know how to use modern technology. Annoyed by the blue guy's disrespect, one of the suited security guards grabs him tight, demanding he watch his mouth. With a lightning-fast move, Bae Minjun flicks the security guard on the forehead, and the guy drops completely out cold. Then the blue delivery guy angrily warns them never to touch him. Seeing that, Heo Yonggang screams in panic for his downed manager, and the mercenary laughs at the man's incompetence. Then the businessman admits he made mistakes in the past and decides to leave the whole job in Bae Minjun's hands. With that, the boss asks the mercenary to wrap up the situation as fast as possible while checking his phone. He also gives him a heads up that the young girl Seong Seonha hired a private delivery guy to protect her. Locked in on the new mission, the dangerous delivery guy studies the target with a dead serious, focused look. Bae Minjun guarantees he'll handle the job his own way and asks if there's any problem with that. The president accepts the condition, as long as everything gets resolved without leaving a single trace behind. Right then, the delivery app pings, letting the mercenary know he's reached his destination to start the hunt. Accepting the gig with a smirk, he celebrates closing the $1 million deal. On Lee Sang's phone screen, the system shows the 50 million won payout for the last completed mission. Right after, the blonde kid remembers that now all payments will be made straight through the delivery app. He keeps explaining the contract rules, highlighting that taking on other gigs during this time is strictly off-limits. Pointing at the guy, Seonha demands he stay by her side 24/7, no matter what happens. Then the girl asks if he can truly swear to stick to that major rule. But the MC just stays quiet for a few seconds, not knowing exactly what to say back. Awkwardly, the blonde jokes that she knows how to say some pretty embarrassing stuff when she wants to. With that, he raises his hand and agrees to accept her terms once and for all. Looking at the boy dead serious, Seonha listens to her new bodyguard's solemn promise. Suddenly, the young guy's phone starts ringing, signaling a new notification from the app. With that, the student announces that he is now officially her hired private courier. Relieved to pay off his debt, Lee Sang worries if he'll still have cash left over for rent and food. He asks when she's sending the next job, saying he'll even take a simple fast food run. Seeing the young girl walk the opposite way from the school, the guy points confused and asks where she's headed. Without stopping, the student calmly replies that she's heading straight to work. Freaking out that he might skip class, the blonde screams that he needs his perfect attendance award. Complaining about the situation, the guy eventually gives in and follows her while looking for his delivery bike. With that, the two hop on the motorcycle and take off together to pull off their very first professional gig. Meanwhile, the front of Tangio High School looks totally peaceful under the morning sun. Inside a dark warehouse rigged with cameras, a group of students is kept cornered under strict watch. Sitting super comfortably on a couch, the gang leader Jeong Seongwon watches the whole thing with total disrespect. Right after, he barks at his goons to get their attention. The leader asks what they said to make the girls shake like that, claiming he was actually pretty nice to them. He goes on to say they came here totally willingly, and he doesn't get why they look like pigs heading to the slaughterhouse. Then the kidnapper tells them all to chill out and warns he's only going to repeat the order one more time. Right in front of the recording cameras, the criminal brutally demands the young girls take off their clothes. He threatens to get physical if they keep ignoring him, suggesting they just do things the easy way. But the chat gets cut short when the blonde in the orange jumpsuit walks in, announcing a delivery has arrived. Checking his delivery app, Lee Sang asks if the guy over there is the target ordered for the beatdown. Confused by the break-in, the criminals start arguing among themselves about who would order food this early in the morning. However, the chubby leader is shocked to realize his own name is the one listed on the delivery guy's app. Wasting zero time, the MC launches the attack with a devastating spinning kick that sends the goons flying. With the opponents floored, the young dude confirms the beatdown package was successfully delivered to the right target. Faced with the guy's terrifying strength, the rest of the criminals throw their hands up and surrender immediately. Seconds later, heavy footsteps echo through the warehouse hallway, announcing someone else just arrived. With that, Seonha calmly walks into the room while the surrendered goons just watch in fear. Looking super proud, the blonde gives a thumbs up and guarantees he handled the beatdown delivery fast and clean. Then, the young girl crouches down to grab the phone of one of the knocked-out criminals on the floor. Pulling the defeated leader up by his hair, she tries to use the facial recognition system to unlock his phone. But the screen says the ID failed because the criminal's face is way too messed up from the punches. Frustrated by the hiccup, the student lets out an annoyed sigh since she can't access the phone's data. The delivery guy complains he told her to avoid the face, but she snaps back asking if he's an amateur for not following orders. Meanwhile, the goons whisper among themselves, plotting an escape or a sneak attack from behind the girl. Suddenly, the young girl calls them out in a freezing tone, making the criminals freeze in pure terror instantly. Glaring at the goons, Seonha demands to know what schools all the girls they kidnapped belong to. Right after, she points to the corner of the room with an incredibly bossy and intense look. She orders the men to kneel in the corner facing the wall and keep their arms up as punishment for what they did. Under the girl's death threat, the criminal desperately obeys while Lee Sang finds the childish punishment hilarious. Confused by the whole thing, the MC asks what exactly she's planning to do with those guys sitting there. Without giving any details, Seonha tells the blonde to get moving and warns they still have a ton of targets to hunt today. Soon after, the duo rolls up to Gujeong High School to knock out the next gig. Inside the classroom, the local bully freaks out when the delivery guy bursts in and demands to know what he wants. But Lee Sang answers by landing a devastating punch right on the school's top bully's face. With the opponent knocked out cold on the desk, the young guy snaps the confirmation photo showing the job is done. Terrified by the blonde's violence, one of the sidekicks runs down the school hallway trying to escape the beatdown. He sprints toward the teacher's lounge, screaming for medical help to save his knocked-out buddies. Throwing the door open, the kid begs the teachers for help, saying a maniac broke into the school and is beating everyone up. But a hand shoots out from the hallway and clamps down over the kid's mouth, stopping him from screaming. Hiding the brawl from the teachers, Lee Sang makes up some dumb excuse and drags the panicked student far away. Right after, he snaps another picture of the second defeated target as proof that another fight delivery is complete. Not showing a single drop of sweat, the blonde keeps hunting down the bullies and logging every win on his phone. The top dogs from the neighboring schools get dropped one by one with ridiculous ease, thanks to the delivery guy's strength. At the last school, the gang leader tries to run away in a panic when he sees the MC walking up with a totally calm look. With all the targets down for the count, Lee Sang sends the final picture of the day, confirming his delivery run was an absolute success. Inside a delivery box, a bunch of cell phones taken from the knocked-out bullies start piling up. With a quick motion, Seong-seonha slams the lid shut to stash the loot they just scored. Then she lets him know there's only 1 gig left to wrap up the day's deliveries, warning him to stay sharp. Under his dark helmet, Lee Sang listens closely to the instructions, feeling how serious the moment is. Already sitting on the bike, the guy asks if they're actually working together like a real team now. Looking back with a weirded-out expression, Seong-seonha asks what exactly he's trying to say. Scratching his head, Lee Sang explains he'll follow orders, but he misses having a bit more communication and partnership between them. Then, the young guy suggests they should at least share what the ultimate endgame of this whole plan is. But the girl coldly shuts the topic down, stating that neither of them are partners and they definitely aren't a team. Saying they're just a client and a delivery guy tied together by money, where either of them can just break the contract and walk away. Walking away calmly, the young girl points out it's totally normal not to share anything with someone who means so little to her. However, she decides to spill that she's tracking the confiscated phones to find a contact for a major target. Her only real goal is just using the delivery guy's physical strength to finally reach this mystery target. Standing next to her bike, the student asks if that blunt explanation was finally enough for him. Suddenly, an out-of-control truck comes out of nowhere and slams violently into both of them, causing a massive explosion on the road. In the middle of all the smoke from the crash, Lee Sang appears holding the girl tight in his arms to protect her. Worried about the hit, the guy asks straight up if she made it out of that brutal collision in one piece. But showing zero gratitude, the young girl shoves his hand away from her body with a quick harsh motion. Getting up from the ground without wasting time, Seong-seonha tries to get her balance and her cool back in the middle of the street. Then she just stares at the delivery guy with a serious look, totally silent, processing the massive scare. Meanwhile, the guy holds his helmet and complains about the pain, saying he's really not doing so hot himself after the fall. Looking at the wreckage of his destroyed motorcycle, Lee Sang panics, remembering all the payments he still owes on it. Right then, the bully Hyo Minsia pops out screaming from the truck window, pointing at the duo as the thieves who took his phone. Furious over the fail, the kid curses the driver out for missing the target and demands to get the service he paid for. Laughing at the whole thing, the dangerous delivery guy Bae Minjun sarcastically apologizes, claiming he's just a little rusty. Then the veteran hops out of the truck and tells his young client to wait inside the cab while he sorts this mess out. Walking to the back of the vehicle, the mercenary in blue starts opening the massive cargo door. With the doors wide open, Bae Minjun promises to deliver their package immediately. On the pavement, the screen of one of the confiscated phones is completely shattered from the force of the crash. Picking up the busted devices, Seong-seonha angrily complains that all their evidence just got destroyed in the accident. Furious about losing the proof, the girl realizes the situation just got way more complicated than they planned. Spotting the logo on the truck, she recognizes the dangerous Gadu Courier Delivery Company is behind the hit. Immediately, Seong-seonha warns the guy that this isn't your average shipping company and tells him to be careful. Totally ignoring the danger warning, Lee Sang casually strolls to the back of the truck to face the driver. Face to face with his rival, the blonde demands in a threatening tone that the man pay for his wrecked bike right now. Inside the truck bed, Bae Minjun ignores the kid's threats while digging through a bunch of stacked cardboard boxes. Tossing aside a bunch of useless tools, the mercenary complains that none of these options work for the job at hand. With a satisfied smirk, the veteran finally finds the exact item he was looking for at the back of the truck. Pulling a massive wooden spear out of a box, he celebrates getting the chance to use this old-school weapon today. Outside, the young guy keeps whining about his custom bike that he bought literally 2 months ago. Angrily demanding payment not just for the bike, but for the emotional damage of losing his only work tool. Suddenly, the veteran leaps from the truck, launching a devastating downward strike with his sharp weapon. Raising the spear, Bae Minjun mockingly comments that he lost his touch and doesn't know how to hold back his power anymore. Looking at the crater he made, the mercenary laughs and says the kid only survived that first strike because his aim was off. Then the enemy sarcastically warns that the young guy won't last long in this line of work if he keeps acting like that. Standing in the middle of the wrecked asphalt, the MC hears the rival say he should have dodged the hit instead of trying to block it. In silence, Lee Sang just stares at his own clenched fist, feeling the vibration from the brutal impact. Laughing at the kid's attitude, Bae Minjun says he totally gets why young guys want to show off and flex their strength at that age, sarcastically suggesting that arrogance and lack of control have already sent plenty of reckless kids straight to the grave. Not showing a single sign of being rattled, the delivery guy gets into a fighting stance and tells his rival to come at him again. Adjusting his helmet, the blonde admits he misjudged the weapon's reach, but guarantees he's blocking the next hit. Annoyed by the kid's sheer audacity, the mercenary's look suddenly shifts into a dead serious killer glare. Gripping the spear tight, he doubles down on his threat, saying the kid's showboating is going to cost him his life. With a lightning-fast move, the veteran charges in, launching a full-power strike straight at the MC. In response, Lee Sang firmly raises his right arm to take the direct impact from that lethal weapon. With an insane collision, the wooden tip of the spear completely shatters against the blonde's impenetrable defense. Shocked by the outcome, Bae Minjun's eyes go wide seeing his favorite weapon get destroyed so easily. Casually holding the broken piece, Lee Sang calmly states that he finally got the timing down perfectly, feeling like he's already gotten used to the opponent's speed, while smoke starts rising from his calloused arm. With that, the delivery guy challenges his rival to use literally any other weapon, promising to break whatever he throws at him. Staring at the wooden handle left in his hands, the mercenary is blown away by the kid's raw physical power. Then he lets out a mocking laugh, realizing this fight just got way more interesting than he thought. The veteran says that watching this kid risk his life like that reminds him of when he was young and reckless himself. Right then, the man makes a quick adjustment to the broken handle, revealing a hidden mechanism inside the wooden structure. With the modded weapon in hand, he takes a firm step forward to keep the brawl with the delivery guy going. Suddenly, the mercenary looks back and calls the young client in the cab, telling him he's gonna need to help out in this fight, ordering the cowardly kid to stop shaking and get out of the truck to lend a hand with the job right now. Furious, Heiress points his finger from the window and screams, reminding him he's the paying customer and demanding a refund. To shut the spoiled brat up, the veteran lands a brutal hit on the side of the truck right next to his head. Super calmly, the mercenary asks if the spoiled heir has ever worked a part-time job a day in his life, sarcastically complaining about how parents these days ruin their kids by spoiling them way too much. Then the man asks if he at least knows how to carry boxes, leaving the kid totally sweating bullets. Suddenly, a deafening scream from Seong cuts through the air, yelling the MC's name with absolute fury. Startled by the random yelling, Lee Sang looks back and sees his client with a terrifyingly angry look on her face. With that, she gives him an earful, telling him to act like a paid professional and not let his pride mess up the job. Seong says the fight is way too dangerous for him to handle with just his fists and tells him to fall back immediately, but Lee Sang cuts her off with authority. With total confidence, the young delivery guy states that fighting is his specialty and she shouldn't get involved. Annoyed by him cutting in, Seong angrily warns the guy not to try and lecture her like that. Watching the duo bicker, Bae Minjun comments on how rude it is for the blonde to talk to a girl like that. Wasting no time, the MC throws a savage punch straight into his rival's spiked weapon with everything he's got. From the massive impact of the strike, the opponent's metal weapon completely shatters into pieces flying through the air. Even though he's spooked, the mercenary in blue jumps back fast to regain his balance and fighting stance. Bae Minjun is shook seeing that the kid actually managed to wreck another one of his favorite work tools. Right then, the veteran praises the kid's drive to fulfill the deal with his client no matter what it takes in battle. Still locked in on the fight, Lee Sang admits he actually enjoys seeing that kind of willpower from such a strong opponent. Surprised by the enemy's durability, the mercenary wonders what the hell this kid's fists are even made of. At that moment, Heiress screams furiously from the cab, ordering his hired gun to attack faster and not give the rival any breathing room. Ticked off by the supposed incompetence, the spoiled heir calls the man trash and says he doesn't even know how to do his job right. Bae Minjun totally loses his patience, with the yelling and coldly states he hates it when people interrupt his work halfway through. So the mercenary fires the spoiled brat on the spot while getting ready to launch a barrage of cargo boxes. Freaking out over the sudden attack, Heiress screams in terror while the veteran complains about how cowardly kids are nowadays. With that, the blue mercenary impales one of the heavy delivery boxes right on the tip of his sharp spear. With a fast and precise move, he chucks the heavy box at top speed straight at the kid in the orange jumpsuit. But Lee Sang manages to obliterate the flying object with a massive punch midair before taking a direct hit. Bae Minjun is impressed by the kid's crazy reflexes, defending the attack without a single second of hesitation. Giving him zero time to rest, the villain hooks another cardboard box onto his weapon to keep the assault going. Flexing all his physical strength, the veteran uses a violent spinning motion to launch another lethal strike. But the blonde blocks the impact like a brick wall, feeling the heavy vibration from the direct crash against his calloused arms. From behind his busted helmet, the MC watches his opponent's every move to predict what he's going to do next. The experienced fighter realizes the kid isn't making this easy and starts cooking up a different attack plan. Right then, he coordinates throwing the box with a strike from his spiked chain, aiming right for his target. Taking the opening, Lee Sang smashes another box with a clean punch that sends cardboard flying everywhere. Even though she's freaked out by the brutal fight, Seong Seonha stands her ground, watching all the action up close. The mercenary in blue spins his weapon at breakneck speed, creating a dangerous barrier to try and corner his rival. Bracing for the worst, the blonde plants his feet firmly to take the lethal charge that's about to hit him. With a precise strike, the blonde punches through the side of another heavy box to try and shut down the enemy's attack for good. To everyone's surprise, the impact triggers a bunch of deadly spinning blades that fly super fast straight at the MC. Showing off his agility, Lee Sang leaps at the perfect moment to dodge the lethal saws, which end up digging deep into the asphalt. The blue mercenary looks pissed, seeing that none of his hidden traps have managed to hit the agile delivery guy so far. Right then, he picks up a massive, heavy metal street sign that was lying in the truck bed to use as a blunt weapon. With insane physical strength, the veteran hurls the 500-kilo obstacle straight at the kid on the asphalt. But the hero blocks the crushing impact with his arms, creating a massive explosion of sparks because of how brutal the hit is. From the force of the collision, the guy in orange gets pushed back several meters, leaving deep marks on the street pavement. Bae Minjun watches the aftermath calmly, thinking he finally managed to wear his opponent out in the brawl. In the back of the truck, the young heir collapses from exhaustion, complaining that he already threw every single box they had in there. Taking off his broken headgear, the MC coldly announces that he considers that last move a fair payback. Then he reveals his face and declares that now it's time to settle the score for the massive damage to his beloved bike. The veteran starts sweating cold and trembling when he recognizes the kid's ruthless glare and extremely dangerous fighting stance. Adjusting his work cap, the man tries to regain his cool while feeling an overwhelming sense of incoming defeat. Right then, the scene cuts to a flashback from 30 years ago with a young delivery guy named Kim Tiksu telling the others to back off from the fight. Back then, Kim Tiksu's teammates were begging him to stick to the plan and avoid going solo so he wouldn't get killed. The crew warns him that the mystery opponent in the factory is a lethal delivery guy hired by a massive corporation. Then the goons anxiously question the reach of that huge company funding the rival mercenary. The buddy tries to play it down, saying the opponent is just a rookie who's never done any real dirty work. With pure arrogance, young Kim Tiksu claims that showing off is for people with no talent, and that doesn't apply to him. Walking into the place, the guy is met with a brutal scene, dozens of men beaten and bleeding out on the factory floor. A mysterious figure steps out of the shadows with a terrifying look, showing zero care about the intruders showing up. The terrifying opponent ironically agrees with the line about showing off and walks closer to the survivors on the floor. The monster mentions he used to hear his seniors telling him to stop showing off all the time, threatening to end his life over it. In a cruel tone, the man reveals that all those old bosses who tried to teach him a lesson ended up dead. He even admits he murdered a few of them and says he'll spare Kim Tiksu's life just because he finally found someone to talk to. The psycho proposes they both keep showing off for the rest of their lives to prove their philosophy on strength is the right one. After that nightmare encounter at the factory, a terrified Kim Tiksu decided to quit his violent bare-knuckle fighting style for good. With that, he threw away his pride and decided to step back from the underground fight scene to live a humble, totally off-the-radar life. The absolute dread of running into that monster again in the city is what kept him in hiding for 30 long years. For 30 years, the old fighter desperately tried to bury his violent past and pretend to be just an average guy in the city. But now he's face to face with a young delivery guy who has the exact same arrogant and driven look he used to have back in the day. Dropping his work cap on the ground, the veteran listens to his own instincts screaming at him to run away right now. He knows that continuing to fight the monster standing right in front of him would be total madness and just pointless showing off. Standing in the middle of the street, the blonde watches his opponent dead serious, waiting to see how this tense street fight ends. Even though he's terrified, Kim Tiksu decides to drop back into his old combat stance from 30 years ago, fighting bare-knuckled. Holding his busted helmet, the young guy stares at his adversary with indifference, patiently waiting for his next move. In his head, the veteran starts wondering if the miserable, runaway life he lived was actually worth it. Furious with himself, he decides he doesn't want to keep growing old like a coward who runs from every single fight. Knowing that if he runs now, he'll spend the rest of his days regretting it, the experienced fighter charges in with total resolve. Screaming in pure rage, Kim Taek-soo claims that back in the day, he also used to hit people with the exact same devastating power as the kid. Lee Sang lets out an ironic laugh and mentions that this was the first thing his rival did all day that he actually respects. With absolute determination, the veteran channels every ounce of physical strength in his body into his fists to land the final strike of his life. But the young guy is way faster, hitting his opponent's face with a crushing punch that shatters his teeth in one blow. From the unbelievable force of the impact, the old warrior is sent flying through the air while the blonde watches him drop with total calm. Walking away, Lee Sang hears the fallen man say he doesn't need to pay for the wrecked motorcycle. Glancing back, the MC casually mentions he'll have hundreds of billions of one soon, so he'll let it slide out of the goodness of his heart. Right then, Heo starts screaming his head off at them in the middle of the street. The delivery guy just watches the tantrum without really caring. Suddenly, the spoiled heir grabs Seonha from behind and threatens to end her if the MC takes a single step. Visibly panicking, Heo presses the sharp blade right up against the girl's face. Then he demands to know where his phone is before he does something crazy. But the kid's shaking hand shows he is absolutely terrified while doing this. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girl throws a brutal headbutt backward, smashing right into her attacker's nose. Next, she stomps hard on the kidnapper's foot to break free once and for all. With that, Heo drops to the ground groaning in pain while she walks away from him. Glaring at the kid, Seonha asks if he actually thought she'd just walk around without knowing how to defend herself. She adds that she can easily take that brat down in a one-on-one fight. Far down the street, the truck that caused the crash is still parked near the scene. Right then, Lee Sang takes the chance to step lightly on the fallen heir's head on the asphalt. Relieved, Lee Sang mentions he got pretty scared and praises her agility, asking if she trains to fight on her own. Without saying a word, the young girl starts walking away in silence. On the ground, the confiscated cell phones look completely totaled after the accident. Looking at the mess, the delivery guy gets pretty stressed about the whole situation. Then Seonha points out that accidents happen in this line of work, and nobody could have predicted that truck showing up. But the MC points his finger and reminds her his job is to fight, not play bodyguard for stuff, demanding that the bills get paid. He keeps gesturing aggressively to make sure she knows he expects his money. Suddenly, the girl gently grabs his hand. Looking at the cuts on his fingers, she asks if he's really okay. Caught off guard by the sweet gesture, the guy totally freezes for a few seconds. Blushing hard, Lee Sang stammers and asks if she's actually worried about him. Disappointed, Seonha lets out a long sigh and calls him a stubborn idiot. Then she starts yelling, asking if his hands are made of steel or diamonds, reminding him that if he gets hurt, the contract is over. Walking ahead, the girl drops one last warning, threatening to cancel the deal if he pulls any more stupid stunts. Following closely behind his client, the young guy just lets out an awkward laugh trying to cool things down. Flat on the ground, Kim Taek-soo praises their youth and tells the girl not to be so hard on her boyfriend. The veteran thanks the MC for sparking that delivery guy's spirit he'd forgotten about. He goes on to offer his seasoned wisdom to help the duo tackle whatever challenges come next. But when the man asks for a hand getting up because he can't feel his body, Lee Sang turns him down flat. Walking down the street, the guy asks how they're supposed to reach the next stop since his bike is wrecked. Suddenly, the old man shouts from a distance, warning them they're in serious mortal danger. He explains he isn't joking and drops the bomb that their names just hit the priority delivery list. Curious about the weird term, the young dude wants to know what this priority delivery actually means. Worried, Seonha realizes things are moving way too fast, and they won't have time to come up with a new plan. The veteran complains about being ignored while the kid asks if he's actually a professional delivery guy. Then the system explains that any rider on the app can accept this special order at the exact same time. The final payout for the gig goes straight to the very first worker who pulls off the job. With that, Kim Taek-soo warns them that they are now the shared targets of every delivery guy in the city. He adds that these rivals will be hunting the duo down 24 hours a day. Instead of freaking out over the threat, the MC flashes a massive grin, thinking the situation is awesome. Hyped up, Lee Sang thanks his boss for the sick opportunity to make bank without even having to hunt the enemies down. Blown away by the kid's madness, Kim Taek-soo calls him an idol and pitches a business partnership between them. But the student shuts down the veteran's hype, telling him to drop that idea right this second. She firmly states he will never be her partner and tells him not to try getting close after messing up the job. The man tries to defend himself, saying he's a pro who only cares about cash and has no personal feelings involved. Right then, the young girl throws a mystery object straight at the fallen veteran's face. The object turns out to be a red collar with gold accents hitting the floor. With a dark look, Xiangxianhe says she'll only accept him if he's willing to be her guard dog. Shocked by the wild offer, the old delivery guy completely freezes on the asphalt. Blushing, the veteran accepts the humiliating term, saying he'd do anything for her. Watching that weird scene, Li Sang is grossed out and complains about the duo's creepy dialogue. Ignoring the chatter, the girl says they need to rush to the final destination since the evidence phones got trashed. Suddenly, the collar is strapped tight around the spoiled heir's neck while he struggles to break free. Holding the leash, Xiangxianhe declares the spoiled kid will be the perfect substitute to squeeze the info out of. With her eyes glowing intensely, she gets ready to drag out every single secret that was hidden on those phones. While dragging the spoiled heir by the collar, the young girl guarantees she's gonna make him confess every last detail. The afternoon starts fading over the massive city, making the red sunset horizon pop. Standing in front of the final destination, Li Sang asks if this place is really the last drop-off of the day. Checking her phone, the girl confirms and warns him that this is going to be the toughest job of their entire run. Walking toward the entrance, Xiangxianhe seriously reveals that the final target is right inside their own school. The MC complains they should have started there to keep him from losing his perfect attendance award. She explains she had to leave the school for last to avoid causing a massive scene in front of all the other students. Right after, Kim Tiksu pops up smiling, letting them know he finished the job of tying up the hostage exactly as ordered. In the back of the truck, the spoiled kid is shown tied up in a bunch of ropes and totally gagged with zero chance of escaping. The veteran asks what the next gig is, and the student thinks to herself about how brave this guy is and how he's totally her type. Not losing his sarcastic touch, the old man suggests that a 30-year age gap is nothing these days and asks to be called Big Brother. Catching the scent of blood and dust in the air, Li Sang warns that something really bad already went down here before they arrived. Keeping her eyes focused, the student just agrees, showing she also picked up on the danger in the air. Near the school's main gate, some random delivery bike is parked looking super suspicious. And the duo's final target is located right at the student council room window, all the way up on the 5th floor of the building. Staring at the lit window, Xiangxianhe finds it weird that the lights are on and the place is open, since it's usually blocked by dark curtains. Because of that, she suspects someone might have moved in before them to stop the delivery job from being a success. The young girl even seriously considers the chance that they are actually the real targets of this silent trap. At that moment, she realizes both things could be happening at the same time as they walk down the dark hallway. Suddenly, a mystery guy in a light jumpsuit pops out complaining about the wait and reveals he already took out all the student council members. Showing zero remorse, the intruder says he got bored waiting and decided to take a stroll to wipe out everyone else in the school. Shocked by the reveal, Kim Tiksu mentions there weren't any students around except the ones actually in the council room. Right then, the veteran senses the danger and mutters about finding yet another opponent who can't follow the basic rules of the underground. Then the old man angrily points his finger and lectures his rival, saying taking someone out off contract totally violates the rules of the trade. With a lightning fast, practically invisible move, the enemy makes a threatening gesture toward the chatty veteran. In the blink of an eye, the veteran gets hit with a brutal slash to the arm, sending blood spraying across the hallway. The attacker complains about the mumbling and warns he hates it when idiots point fingers at him mid-conversation. In terrible pain, Kim Tiksu hunches over, clutching his wounded wrist that won't stop bleeding after the sneak attack. Holding his phone, the assassin says with absolute disgust that he has no interest in wasting time with amateurs and tells them to get out of the way. He admits he thought it was a joke getting hired just to hunt down a high school girl and considered wiping everyone out to just go home. However, the villain admits his mind completely changed the second he saw the target's photo sent by the client. Phone in hand, the attacker super excitedly talks about how hyped he got when he found out who the opponent actually was. On the screen, the girl's detailed info confirms she's the exact person the criminal organization is hunting. Right then, Xiangxianhe watches her partner worriedly while the MC's name is dropped by the dangerous rival. Glaring at the blonde with a psycho look, the guy with glasses greets the young dude, saying it's been a long time since they last saw each other. He mockingly claims they're old buddies and that they're just two sides of the same coin in the underground fighting scene. With that, the opponent tries to push the MC's buttons, but he just keeps his head down, listening to the trash talk in silence. In dead silence, the duo waits to see how this super tense situation plays out in the middle of the fancy school hallway. Intrigued by what she just heard, the student questions if her personal delivery guy actually has some sketchy friend like that. She demands answers from the kid, claiming she never thought he'd hide secrets about such dangerous past connections. Taking a step forward, Lee Sang clarifies that the guy isn't really a friend and gets ready to handle the problem. At that moment, the MC moves fast to keep his client safe and shielded from any direct hit by the rival. Grabbing the girl tight, the blonde steps up like a human shield right in the path of the dangerous intruder. The attacker finds the hero's protective vibe hilarious and sarcastically asks if the girl happens to be his girlfriend. Dead serious, Lee Sang replies she's just his paying client, and he needs to keep her breathing so he can collect his check. He demands the assassin leave the girl out of this mess and settle any unfinished business directly with him. Staring the MC down with an evil glare, the villain gets ready to kick off a fight to the finish right then and there. Totally rejecting the offer, the attacker dashes in at top speed, throwing a fast strike with his razor-sharp blade. With crazy reflexes, the blonde manages to dodge the fatal blow while holding onto the girl tight to protect her. Mocking the hero's ability to protect her, the rival unleashes another flurry of rapid-fire attacks, giving them zero time to breathe. Backing up quickly down the hallway, the young delivery guy does whatever it takes to keep the enemy's blade away from his client. Freaked out by how brutal the fight is, the student clutches onto the MC's chest during all the chaotic movement. Hearing the girl breathing heavy, the young guy stays locked in to make sure she doesn't get a single scratch in this brawl. The assassin mockingly asks if the blonde seriously forgot who they really are in the criminal underworld. With a creepy smirk, the enemy keeps up the trash talk to try and mess with the young delivery guy's head mid-fight. He keeps ruthlessly asking about the tragic fate of all the people the MC swore to protect back in the day. Hearing those heavy words, Lee Sang stays quiet while uncomfortable memories seem to bubble up in his head. Right then, the rival acknowledges that the blonde's absurd physical strength is still fully intact even after spending so much time away from real battles. But the villain uses a tiny split-second distraction to throw a barrage of quick strikes against the hero's defense. The assassin brags about having the ultimate advantage in speed and technique, forcing the MC to back off in frustration. The attacker states they've never tested who would win in a fair fight, but points out that using the girl as a handicap will make his victory way easier. He makes fun of the blonde's disappearance and jokes about finding him pretending to be just a happy, normal high school student. With heavy sarcasm, the assassin says this soft life made the kid weak and tells him to take a look at his own pathetic state. The villain insists school life doesn't suit him and calls for the MC to come back to the underground fighting world. In silence, Seonha watches the situation and starts realizing what a huge burden she's being to her bodyguard in this fight. Right then, the young girl stares at her own hand with pure determination, showing she isn't willing to just be a helpless pawn anymore. With her look suddenly turning serious and locked in, she makes a split-second decision to flip the script on this dangerous battle. Without hesitating, the girl's feet move with lightning speed across the hallway floor straight toward the lethal opponent. Shocking everyone, the student charges in and violently crashes right into the back of the assassin with glasses. Caught completely off guard by the young girl's gutsy move, the attacker freezes, unable to react right away. Seeing that crazy scene play out, Lee Sang's eyes go wide, completely lost as to why his client just did that. The villain lets out a sarcastic laugh, asking if she's trying to seduce him and wondering if the blonde also fell for this dumb trick. Ignoring his jokes, the girl asks in a threatening tone if she really looks like some fragile obstacle in this fight. Glaring right into the rival's face with pure fury, she dares the enemy to repeat what he said if he's got the guts to deal with the fallout. Noticing the killer totally ruthless aura radiating off the young girl, the guy with glasses gets a chill and realizes he's in real danger. With insane agility, the girl lands a clean hit right to the back of the opponent's head. Flexing her strength, she locks the rival's face in place, making him groan in pain under her rock-solid grip. Feeling the painful hit, the attacker curses the girl out while trying to break out of that brutal hold. But she finishes the combo by slamming the opponent's body hard against the solid floor of the school hallway. Taking advantage of the enemy losing his balance, she lands a devastating blow that sends the assassin flying into the wall with crazy force. Dropped on the floor and spitting blood, the villain admits their reaction was way better than he expected and actually finds it interesting. Regaining her posture, Seonha makes it crystal clear she was never a burden and knows exactly how to handle herself. Giving him zero chance to bounce back, the MC throws a savage stomp to neutralize the intruder's threat for good. Staring down the defeated opponent with ice-cold eyes, the young girl firmly states she has absolutely no relationship with the blonde guy. Silence takes over the school hallway again, while red drops keep slowly hitting the totally wrecked floor. Watching it all from a distance, Kim Tiksu is completely lost seeing how effortlessly the duo wiped out the dangerous opponent. Casually strolling over to the wounded veteran, Lee Sang casually calls him out to check how bad that injury is. Straight up, the young dude tells the old man to pick up his chopped-off hand from the floor, saying the docs might still be able to sew it back on. Shaking and in a state of total shock, the veteran stammers, unable to believe there's actually a chance to get his lost limb back. Super chill, the blonde confirms he knows an excellent underground spot that handles these kinds of emergency surgeries. Seeing Xianha walk away, Lee Sang calls out, asking where she's headed now. Right then, the young girl replies she's trying to find a phone that actually works, but says it's already too late. She explains that the defeated mercenary might look clumsy on the outside, but he's actually super detail-oriented. The girl adds that he definitely smashed all the witnesses' phones before he even attacked them. Checking out the damage, Lee Sang comments that the rival's work style is super messy and that the council room is an absolute disaster. Xianha gets ticked off and asks why he cares about her mental state, telling him to butt out. Bummed by the cold response, the guy complains that she always finds a reason to complain, even when he's just worried. Suddenly, Kim Tiksu points at the opponent knocked out in the hallway and drops a warning about who he really is. Xianha finds his reaction weird and asks if he's seriously calling that dangerous criminal a friend. Annoyed, Lee Sang yells that the guy is absolutely not his friend, but struggles to figure out how to label him. Giving the down guy a light kick, the young dude suggests maybe he's just an annoying stalker. The tied-up man on the floor complains about the mean insult and groans in pain, realizing the rival is already waking up. The MC explains they used to cross paths at his old job, where the guy was always trying to pick fights out of nowhere. Triggered by that description, the enemy screams that this is the literal definition of friendship, but the MC threatens to knock him out again. With that, Xianha coldly states she'll gladly help beat the intruder up if he keeps being annoying. Flat on the floor, Bae Minjin warns the kid he just messed with an incredibly dangerous person. He goes on to say she's part of the group that sits at the absolute top of the food chain in South Korea. The wounded guy seriously reveals the student is the daughter of the powerful and feared Xiang Zhongqiao. Totally lost, Lee Sang asks who that guy is, leaving the rival shocked by how clueless he is. With total disrespect, the mercenary warns she's not someone the delivery guy can control or handle on his own. Right then, the prisoner tells the girl to head to a specific part of the city and look for a certain person. He taunts her, saying that once she's there, she can finally find out who was responsible for her dad's passing. The villain mocks her, asking if that valuable info wasn't a huge help for her little investigation. He keeps up the trash talk, but gets cut off by a sudden, violent strike from the furious girl. Stomping hard on the attacker, Xianha screams, asking if he seriously thought he could bring up her father. With eyes full of rage, she demands he spill everything he knows before she decides to end his life. Laughing at her panic, the rival rejects the offer and tells her to go fix her problems with her partner. Losing her mind, the girl tries to lunge at him again with her backpack to keep beating the downed opponent. But Lee Sang grabs his client's arm tight and calmly lets her know she's done enough damage. The delivery guy explains the rival is just trying to trigger her anger, so she does something reckless. The MC confidently states the opponent is never gonna tell the truth, since he was trained specifically to resist exactly this. He adds that beating him up like that is only gonna tire her arms out, without making him break or give up what he knows. In a serious tone, he suggests she should start planning out what their next strategic move is going to be. Right then, the delivery guy gives his boss a friendly pat on the shoulder to try and calm her down after her rage moment. In the tense silence of the hallway, the two watch the fallen enemies while the young girl tries to get her nerves in check. Meanwhile, the neon lights of a busy city avenue start glowing as the night rolls in. Suddenly, a notification for a new service gig starts buzzing on the screen of an electronic device. A hand with perfectly painted and decorated nails grabs the device to check the details of the available order. In a private luxury setting, a mysterious woman stares at her phone screen looking totally chill. Coldly, the elegant lady announces to her subordinates that a brand new service order just dropped. She demands they bring the girl in untouched and without a single scratch, because she could be very useful later on. But the order for the guy is brutal, telling her goons to take him out with zero mercy and throw his remains to the dogs. Taking a calm drag from her cigarette, the madame orders them to do the job clean and with total class. Back on the street, the blue mercenary is shown completely immobilized, wrapped in an insane amount of tight ropes. Next to him, the veteran also tied up complains about how ridiculous this looks, while the other guy just finds it funny. With a loud bang, the back door of the transport van gets slammed shut by the delivery guy. From the driver's seat, the old man asks if he just needs to drop the two prisoners off at the address Lee Sang gave him. Lee Sang replies that there's an underground hospital there that will fix up the old driver's hand. Seonha cuts in and coldly warns the driver not to try anything funny, since the caller has a tracker. The man in the cap tells her to chill, guaranteeing he'll do the job since he already got paid up front. Watching the van pull away, the two kids see the taillights slowly fade out down the dark street. Right then, the MC tosses a motorcycle key in the air with a quick flick of his gloved hand. Staring at the mystery object in his hand, he looks confused, not knowing where that vehicle key came from. The student explains his old bike got trashed and tells him to use this new key from now on. Staring closely at the key, the young guy tries to process the fact that he just got a brand new ride. Hyped about the surprise, the MC hypes up his boss, saying she's amazing and even offers his own body as thanks. But she kills the mood, bluntly revealing that the key actually belongs to the defeated mercenary's bike. The girl explains she managed to pickpocket it straight out of the rival's pocket during the fight earlier. A quick flashback shows the young girl's fast hands snatching the key from the opponent's pocket, without him even noticing. Bummed by the reveal, Lee Sang just declares today's delivery shift is officially over. The MC complains about the rival's terrible taste in bike design, and promises to buy a new one as soon as he gets his paycheck. Already sitting on the bike, the guy says he's way too exhausted and tells his client to head home by herself tonight. Surprised by him brushing her off, the girl asks why she can't go with him, leaving the guy confused by the question. No beating around the bush, Seonha states that her destination from now on is going to be the delivery guy's place. Sitting comfortably on the back of the bike, she suggests they should head there together to save travel time. Shocked by the random announcement, the young guy totally freezes, trying to process what he just heard. He loses his mind and starts yelling, asking why she suddenly wants to move into his house out of nowhere. Calling the delivery guy an idiot, she reminds him her apartment got broken into and going back there now would be crazy. The student adds that she's a high-priority target now and is in danger of being attacked 24 hours a day. When the guy tries to argue against how insane the idea is, she cuts him off, reminding him it's part of the job deal. Seonha doubles down, saying the contract requires him to stay by her side at all times, no matter what happens. With an intimidating look, she asks if he seriously forgot such a major rule that they literally both signed. Telling the kid to just start the engine already, the girl shows she's not taking any more complaints. Then she gives the guy a firm slap on the leg to hurry him up so they can finally get going. With no way out, Lee Sang stares at her in silence and asks if she actually gets the weight of what she's saying. With his eyes wide, Lee Sang asks if she really understands what it means for a girl to go to a guy's house when he lives totally alone. He asks if, even knowing everything about his life, she's 100% sure nothing weird is gonna happen, but Seonha just brushes it off. Looking the guy right in the face, the student calmly says she wouldn't be so sure about what might go down between them in that house. Straight up, she tells him to go ahead and do whatever he wants, leaving Lee Sang totally clueless about what she means by that tease. Seonha firmly repeats he should go ahead and do as he pleases, keeping a totally cold vibe while sitting on the back of the bike. She goes on to say that if it helps with future delivery gigs, she doesn't care if he does whatever he wants with her from now on. Right then, the blonde just looks away in total silence, feeling the heaviness of that crazy conversation and not really knowing how to react. Super frustrated by the girl's bold answer, Lee Sang clenches his fist hard while muttering to himself about how annoying this situation is. Walking angrily ahead, the guy lets her know she is absolutely not his type, especially being so rude and cold like that. Then he tosses a blanket at her and says he only has one pillow and one blanket in the apartment, telling her to figure out how to sleep. Right after, the young guy locks the door to his place tight to make sure they're safe during this chaotic night of work. But while riding his bike through the dark city streets, Lee Sang makes a point to warn her his place doesn't even have a bidet in the bathroom. Right then, the scene shows the simple front of the guy's apartment building under the starry sky on a quiet night in the neighborhood. Inside the basic room, the MC is shown lying flat on his back on the floor, casually scrolling through his phone. But looking at his screen, he freaks out seeing his investment chart plummeted almost 100% all at once. Clutching his stomach, the blonde complains about the pain and can't believe this crazy girl actually accepted the invite to come inside. Meanwhile, Seonha stays sitting on the floor of the simple room, swiping on her phone without giving a single crap about the guy's whining. She hugs her knees, looking deep in thought, keeping her eyes down in the quiet vibe of that tiny room. Lying on the floor, Lee Sang feels like he's going to lose his mind with her being there, complaining that her attitude is making him lose all his patience. Then the guy's mind replays the bold line she dropped earlier in the hallway, telling him to go ahead and do whatever he wanted. That makes him remember how she calmly walked right into his apartment, without showing the slightest bit of hesitation or fear. The young dude panics, thinking he's about to have a mental breakdown for letting the absolute worst person in the world just walk into his house. He deeply regrets his choice, figuring that getting tangled up in this rich girl's drama is only gonna bring massive problems into his life. But he tries to cheer himself up by planning that, as soon as he gets all the promised cash, he's leaving and never looking back. On the other side of the room, the student just watches him silently with her chin resting on her arms, paying attention to his every move. Shaking his head hard, Lee Sang tells himself to focus and stop having weird thoughts about the girl sharing a room with him. So he opens his food delivery app and tries to convince himself he's just really hungry, anxiously waiting for his fried chicken. Suddenly, Seong-seonha looks up and mentions there are only 5 minutes left until the food gets there, saying she prefers seasoned chicken. She admits this is the first time she's ever going to eat delivery chicken in her life and complains she couldn't pick something she actually craved. Mind blown by the confession, the blonde's eyes go wide and he asks, shocked, if she really has never eaten delivery fried chicken before. Sitting cross-legged, the girl explains she's had plenty of fried chicken dishes before, since her house's maid was a top-tier cook. She recalls that her dad never allowed delivery food in the house, so she only ate fresh, home-cooked meals every single day. With a nostalgic look, the young girl admits she really liked that simple routine of eating dinner at her massive, fancy family dining table. For her, the best and happiest part of the day was when her beloved dad managed to get home from work early to eat with her. Then the scene shows the giant luxury high-rise where she lived with her family in the busiest and richest part of the big city. But she remembers one night when she got a text message from her dad apologizing for not making it back in time for dinner. Because the maid also had to rush out for an emergency, the little girl ended up completely alone in the huge apartment. Watching TV to kill time, she saw a commercial for tteokbokki that looked absolutely delicious and irresistible. Overcome by the craving to try it, the young girl decided to grab her phone to make her very first delivery app order. Exactly 2 years ago, she was waiting anxiously in the hallway when the loud doorbell rang, announcing the delivery guy was there. Outside the fancy front door, a firm, muffled voice called out that the food order was ready. Hyped about her food arriving, the little girl quickly answered, confirming she was coming to open the door to her house. Phone in hand, she unlocked the electronic deadbolt, having zero clue about the terrifying danger she was about to face. But when she opened the door, she came face to face with a mystery delivery guy in a dark helmet and red jacket, standing silently in the hall. Right then, the girl's red eyes went wide as she felt a horrible chill run through her whole body just from that man being there. The mystery man held the bag of food tight in his gloved hand, keeping his face totally hidden behind his helmet's dark visor. Then the shot zooms in on the circular logo stamped on the chest of the delivery guy's jacket, showing their delivery service brand. Seong-seonha asks the blonde if he honestly believes that entire crazy chain of events that night was just a coincidence. Keeping her eyes locked on the guy, the student relives the memory of the exact moment her life completely went off the rails. She says that on the exact same day she placed her first delivery order, a sharp, bloody weapon was used in the apartment. With that, she painfully reveals that that cold night was the exact moment her beloved father ended up getting brutally taken out in their own home. Looking Lee Sang right in the eyes, the girl states with absolute certainty that it was the mystery delivery guy who knocked on her door that terrible day. She finishes by saying firmly that the dangerous attacker's silhouette and mannerisms were insanely similar to the MC's build. Hearing the shocking reveal in silence, the blonde seriously agrees that this whole situation is definitely far from being just some random coincidence. Feeling the massive weight of this new info from the past, the guy curses under his breath, realizing how huge of a mess he just walked into. With that, the delivery guy vents that his job just turned into a massive problem and is way more dangerous than he thought. Hearing noises outside, Lee Sang warns there are at least 2 people out there, and it's definitely not the chicken guy. Seong-seonha complains that this is exactly why she didn't want him here, but wonders if she'll have to pay an extra fee for all this chaos. With that, the MC talks back over his shoulder, saying she's also a suspect for being behind this whole situation. Right then, the young girl sits in the room in total silence, while the trust issues between the two just keep growing. He seriously warns her he won't let it slide if he finds out she or anyone connected to her is involved in this. Staring the kid down, Seong-seonha firmly replies that she doesn't plan on making things easy for him either. Walking away, Lee Sang angrily mutters that it's unbelievable he's trying to help out and is only getting this kind of treatment. Suddenly, the young guy stops in his tracks when he hears a weird noise coming from outside and looks surprised. Opening the terrace door carefully, the delivery guy decides to go check out what's going down out there in the dark. Out there, a mystery guy in a trench coat is holding another delivery guy by the neck, surrounded by a bunch of bodies on the floor. Desperate and barely able to breathe, the poor worker on the ground tries begging for help with whatever strength he has left. Hearing the noise at the door, the guy in the trench coat turns his head slowly, looking curious. With total disrespect, the intruder just lets go of the victim's neck and lets him drop unconscious onto the concrete floor. Looking up, the stranger asks straight up if the blonde kid is the famous Lee Sang. Right then, silence takes over the terrace as the enemy gets into position to kick off the fight. Then the stranger friendly holds his hand out toward the blonde to shake it. Introducing himself politely, the man says his name is Yang Jaiwoo. Staring suspiciously at the hand, Lee Sang hesitates for a few seconds. The MC tells him to get out of the way already and states he doesn't usually shake hands with guys. Staying quiet for a quick second, Yang Jaiwoo just mumbles that he gets the picture. Lowering his head, the prosecutor says he got the message loud and clear. Then he opens his hand and sarcastically mentions he must be the only rude one here. Suddenly, Yang Jaiwoo whips out a collapsible baton and says the real rudeness here is the blonde guy even existing. Flexing his weapon furiously, the prosecutor claims the young dude is rotten to the core and beyond saving. Smashing the brick wall next to him with a strike, the man complains the kid doesn't have a single drop of manners. Adjusting his grip, Yang Jaiwoo promises that starting now, he's going to make the blonde live his life totally differently. Pointing his weapon right at Lee Sang's face, the man warns he's going to leave him looking worse than a stray dog. Annoyed about his building getting wrecked, Lee Sang calls him a psycho and complains about the hole in the wall. Charging in at top speed, Yang Jaiwoo launches a fast attack at the kid who dodges it. With a loud crack, the prosecutor lands a heavy strike that the hero firmly blocks. Feeling the impact of the block, the young dude steps back and checks his arm, trying to figure out what's going on. Staring down his opponent, Yang Jaiwoo mockingly asks what he thought he was going to accomplish with that reaction. Noticing it's just a collapsible baton, Lee Sang laughs, asking if he seriously thinks that thing hurts. Even while brushing it off, the blonde feels a sharp pain in his hit arm and realizes that strike was actually dangerous. Getting ready for round 2, the prosecutor says the first thing they need to fix is the kid's terrible attitude. Walking coldly, the man claims Lee Sang's arrogance comes from pure ignorance, and he's going to correct it. Muttering under his breath, Lee Sang hears the enemy say not to feel bad, because this problem isn't just his. Then Yang Jaiwoo claims the real issue is the social system that pumps out garbage and just lets it roam free. With zero patience for the speech, Lee Sang asks what he's even rambling about and wonders if he's also a delivery guy. Suddenly, the man in the trench coat cuts the chat short and calls out Seong Seonha's name loud and clear. Pointing his weapon like a boss, Yang Jaiwoo coldly declares he's taking the girl away from there. Teasing the girl, the blonde jokes that she's pretty popular and asks why there are so many dudes in her life. Looking serious at his rival, the young guy warns him she's his paycheck and he's not handing her over. But Yang Jaiwoo fires back that she'll go with him willingly, so she doesn't rot next to a piece of trash. Right then, the two opponents lock eyes, ready to pick their deadly fight back up in the middle of the night. Wasting zero time, the prosecutor gets ready to throw another fast strike at his adversary. Charging with full power, the man in the trench coat starts a dangerous offensive move straight at the kid. Suddenly, Seong Seonha pops up at the terrace door and screams, ordering both of them to knock it off. Pissed off, the girl asks what he thinks he's doing here and tells him never to look for her without permission. Hearing her call the guy big brother, Lee Sang is totally mind-blown by the crazy plot twist. With that, Yang Jaiwoo puts his weapon away and states there's no way he can just let this slide. Screaming in rage, the man says he can't stand seeing her with some bum and that he's been too worried to even sleep. The girl tries to cool things down, saying the blonde isn't dangerous, and she was planning to introduce him later. She then introduces Yang Jaiwoo as a prosecutor who has been taking care of her since she was just a little kid. Furious, the prosecutor yells that he doesn't need an introduction and promises to wipe the blonde out for good. Right then, the student just brings her index finger to her lips, telling him to hush. With a dead serious look, she coldly tells him he's making way too much noise out here on the terrace. Staring the prosecutor down, she asks if what he just said means he's doubting her judgment. Spooked by the young girl's cold vibe, Yang Jaiwoo stutters trying to explain himself, saying he's just worried. Happy with the answer, she shuts the conversation down and starts walking back inside the apartment. Calling everyone in, the girl says they need to sit down to figure out the next step of the plan. Still salty about the whole thing, the prosecutor quietly follows the kids inside. Deep in thought, the young delivery guy lets out a groan while watching the other two move around. Soon after, a delicious box of delivery fried chicken is popped open right on the bedroom table. Sitting on the floor with a soda in his hand, Lee Sang casually asks if anyone wants something to drink. Sitting with his arms crossed, the guy in the suit angrily refuses, saying just looking at that stuff makes him sick. Giving the guest a look of pure disgust, the blonde warns him not to even think about touching his chicken. Chewing on a piece of chicken, she mentions the delivery was messy, but they still pulled off the final goal. Right then, the scene shows the Xiangchengdong district, famous for being the absolute most dangerous area in the country. The young girl drops that their next target is a super dangerous guy who goes by the codename Yungjian. With a sarcastic smirk, the student mentions how ridiculous and embarrassing that codename is to even say out loud. The girl confidently bites her lip and announces that from now on, the operation is getting a new name. Finishing her thought, she seriously declares the new mission codename will be Chicken Delivery. Killing the vibe, the MC reminds them that all that intel actually came from Bei Minjun. He wraps it up saying they shouldn't just blindly trust the rival, since the guy literally lies all the time. With obvious sarcasm, Yang Jiwoo comments that the delivery guy's reaction is super cheap and totally predictable given the situation. Triggered by the jab, Lee Sang asks what the prosecutor just said, demanding an answer right now. Chewing on a piece of chicken, Yang Jiwoo states his team always verifies intel before making a move, since spotting lies is his day job. Seeing the man eating his chicken, Lee Sang loses it, screaming furiously, demanding to know why he should leave his own house. With absolutely zero patience left, the prosecutor keeps chewing and complains that the cheap, no-brand chicken totally ruined his appetite. Desperate over the guest's audacity, Lee Sang tells both of them to get out of his house right now and to take the girl with him. Dropping the bone in the cup with a loud clack, Yang Jiwoo brings up the exact number of 78 people to kick off his explanation. With his arms crossed, he reveals that's how many fighting couriers came after the hero since the priority list went live. The prosecutor explains the young dude didn't notice a thing, because his squad managed to lock them all up before they got anywhere near him. Staring the kid down, he asks if the delivery guy really understands the extreme danger he's sitting in right now. Considering almost 99% of the people who end up on this priority hit list get wiped out in just 2 days, with only 1% surviving by running away or begging for protection, making his choice to sit here eating chicken totally insane. Knowing that starting right now, even more dangerous and ruthless enemies are gonna show up to try and end his life. The prosecutor admits he couldn't care less what happens to the kid, but asks what he's going to do when he can't just punch his way out of a problem. Glaring at the blonde, he asks if the delivery guy will actually be capable of protecting Xianha once things really hit the fan. Faced with the prosecutor's question, Lee Sang just lifts his head looking totally unbothered and says that's not even a question for him. With a serious look, the young guy finishes by stating that he simply doesn't lose any of his fights. The delivery guy explains his only motivation is cash, pointing out that if he loses, he won't get paid for his work. Suddenly, loud knocking on the door breaks the silence of the conversation, grabbing everyone's attention in the tiny living room. From outside, the men let the prosecutor know they've completely finished cleaning up the crime scene out on the terrace. Hearing the heads up, Yang Jiwoo waves his hand and says it's finally time for him to get out of there. Quiet for a sec, the prosecutor stares at the floor with a heavy look before turning his back on the kids. Wearing his black trench coat, the man gets ready to leave the apartment, walking slowly toward the exit. Right then, he looks at the young girl and admits he still can't wrap his head around her choice to team up with this delivery guy. Then, Yang Jiwoo tells her she needs to prove she was right about her decision, and glares at the blonde with a super intimidating look. Grabbing the doorknob, he seriously warns that if the kid fails Xianha or makes her suffer, there will be hell to pay. While walking down the hallway surrounded by investigators, the prosecutor swears he'll end the blonde's life if anything goes wrong with the girl. With the door slamming shut with a loud bang, silence creeps back into the small apartment, leaving the duo totally alone in the room again. Pissed about the late threat, Lee Sang points at the closed door and screams he'll take out the prosecutor first if he shows up here uninvited. Watching her bodyguard throw a dumb tantrum, the young girl just stays seated in silence with a really serious look on her face. Turning around suddenly, Lee Sang looks at the girl who casually starts taking her clothes off right in front of him without even hesitating. Completely shook by the crazy scene, the blonde's face turns beet red and he instantly starts panicking. Not getting his reaction, the young girl just complains she totally forgot to bring a clean change of clothes. While casually unbuttoning her shirt, she asks if he has anything she can borrow and says she desperately needs to take a shower. Trying hard not to look at her, the MC quickly dives under the blankets on the floor, his heart beating out of his chest. Then the blonde chucks a soft pillow right at her to try and block his view and make her stop that right now. With the girl already in the shower, the guy gets up from the floor and stares at the pillow lying in the room, trying to get his cool back. The young guy stands there in dead silence, listening to the sound of the heavy shower water running from inside the bathroom. While the sound of the shower echoes through the tiny apartment, the guy tries his best to ignore how awkward the situation is. Deciding to help out, he yanks his closet doors open with a loud thud to look for some clean clothes for the girl. Right after, the young girl's bare feet pop up at the bathroom door, showing she finally wrapped up her hot shower. Wearing nothing but one of the guy's oversized white t-shirts, she complains his clothes smell weird and seem like they've been sitting in a damp closet. Embarrassed by her outfit, Lee Sang grabs his head and screams for her to put some pants on immediately before stepping out. Pulling the hem of the shirt up to show him, she calmly explains she's already wearing short shorts and doesn't get why he's being so dramatic. The girl warns that starting tomorrow, the delivery guy will need to wear the right clothes for each drop-off location so he doesn't get recognized. The young girl tells the guy to get a good night's sleep so he stays in shape, leaving the blonde mentally complaining about how annoying this is. At that moment, the two stand on opposite sides of the room in dead silence, staring at each other under the dim light of the tiny apartment. With a firm tone, Lee Sang doubles down that he only has one single set of bedding available to use on the floor. Seonha just stares at him in silence for a few seconds, making it clear she has zero intention of changing her mind about sleeping in that room. The blonde looks away, looking completely exhausted and ticked off by his new delivery client's endless stubbornness. Flipping all the lights off at once, the girl announces it's dark now and gets ready to lie down on the apartment floor. While the young girl thinks the floor is pretty comfy, the blonde lies on his back muttering that this is officially the worst night of his life. With a quick pull, the guy yanks the gray blanket over his whole body to try and forget how uncomfortable this is. Right then, the girl gets closer and tells him not to sleep too far from her, making the delivery guy even more stressed out and clueless on what to do. She seriously explains they never know what might happen while they're sleeping, proving why they need to stay on high alert. The young girl orders the guy to stay super close to keep her safe, leaving the blonde sweating cold from being so physically close. Wishing him a good night, she closes her eyes while silence and darkness take over the small apartment building. The next day, a beautiful morning sun lights up the blue sky over a massive, luxury traditional mansion right in the middle of the big city. Inside, the loud sound of someone downing a cup of sake in one go echoes through the fancy vibe of that luxury home. Congressman Jai Woon-soo drinks happily at a packed table, saying there's nothing better than day drinking while skipping work. The congressman looks at the woman sitting across from him and admits he couldn't focus on anything because he wanted to see her so badly. Pouring the drink delicately, the beautiful hostess thanks such an important man for his kindness and says she's nothing but grateful. Introducing herself as the elegant Chungguo, she claims that even to save a nation you need to eat well and promises to serve him devotedly. The politician downs another glass and praises how elegantly the young girl speaks, looking totally charmed by the jissing. Suddenly, the man stands up from the table, fixing his clothes, and says he can't hold it anymore and desperately needs to hit the restroom. Letting out a drunk hiccup, he tells her he's going to run to the bathroom real quick and will be right back in her arms in a second. The politician's stumbling steps echo down the wooden hallway of the mansion as he walks away from the luxury banquet room. The second the man leaves the room, the hostess's eyes shift completely to a super cold, focused glare in the dark. Holding up his pants in a rush, the politician complains to himself about how bad he needs to go while walking down the hall. Suddenly, the congressman stops in his tracks and stares at the end of the hallway, looking totally shocked at who he sees there. A male figure is shown kneeling humbly right in the middle of the walkway, catching the politician's eye as he slowly walks up. Rubbing his eyes to see better in the dim light, the guy in the suit tries to figure out who the random visitor waiting for him is. He recognizes the powerful Hyo Yongang, president of the massive steel company, kneeling right there on the floor of the mansion hallway. Hearing the businessman talk to him casually, the politician coldly corrects him and demands to be called strictly by his congressman title. Humiliated on the floor, the businessman begs for one more chance to handle the young Seonha, swearing he'll do a clean job this time. Then Congressman Jai Woon-soo complains that Hyo Yongang doesn't know how to capitalize on opportunities and ignored all the important advice just to drink like a fool. The politician goes on to say that Seong Jeoncheol really was a built different businessman and totally leagues ahead in the market. Then he savagely points out that some guys go broke because they can't even handle the table scraps a dead man leaves behind. He adds that other guys with real vision don't just clean up the mess, but actually turn any company into the biggest powerhouse in the whole country. Congressman Jai Woon-soo says that dead businessman's massive influence made him wonder if he thought he was the only important person on the planet. With pure mockery, the politician asks how the gap between them got so huge, reminding him they went to the same college and got into the same business. Pissed by the words, Hyo tells him not to joke around and threatens to drag all his allies down with him if he goes down for good. Right then, Congressman Jae-woon-soo starts laughing out loud, mocking the massive pride his business partner is still trying to flex even while hitting rock bottom. He claims only someone with actual skills can act that cocky, while the hostess Wall watches the conversation from a distance in the luxury room. In dead silence, hostess Wall just watches the two men in the room with a very serious and focused look on her face. Full of rage, Hyo points at the politician and gives a blunt, cold order for his goons to end the guy's life right there. Suddenly, Wall pulls a sharp object right out of her own hair super fast and completely silently. Dashing forward, the young woman lands a perfectly placed strike to neutralize the armed goon before he can even attack the politician at the dinner table. Holding the bloody makeshift weapon, she stands tall in the middle of the banquet hall after the clean hit. Businessman Hyo watches the scene totally frozen, blown away by the woman's violent reaction. Then hostess Wall shows off an extremely focused look as she checks out how the guys involved in the brawl are reacting. Bleeding, Hyo screams in pain on the floor, while Congressman Jae-woon-soo figures out Wall knew about the whole setup from the start. Keeping her cool, the hostess politely asks for a second of their attention so she can explain herself amid the chaos in the room. With that, she humbly apologizes for interrupting their meal and asks for forgiveness for all the trouble she caused. At that moment, the calm vibe outside the traditional mansion totally clashes with the massive tension building up inside the room. Wrecked on the floor, businessman Hyo stays totally still, fully accepting his defeat after the surprise attack. Suddenly, the young woman grabs his chin firmly, making the businessman hesitate in front of that kind of boss energy. With pure authority, she states she needs to maintain the dignity and order of the mansion, since the place was built to be classy and respectful. Wall goes on to explain she'll take full responsibility for what happens to the intruder who disrespected the house rules. Worried, Congressman Jae-woon-soo grabs her hand and warns her that taking the guy's life would be a massive overreaction right now. Desperate, the businessman tries begging for help, calling his ally Big Brother to try and save his own skin. But Congressman Jae-woon-soo lands a heavy kick on Hyo, while hostess Wall sarcastically mocks the politician's fake act of mercy. With that, the politician suggests squeezing every last drop of useful intel out of the businessman before getting rid of him, and invites everyone to talk in his room. The idea of torturing his business ally makes the room feel even more tense and dead silent for a few seconds. Then hostess Wall calmly agrees to the politician's terms and decides to roll with the plan he mapped out. Meanwhile, out in the mansion's garden, one of Hyo goons cries his eyes out while getting dragged by the collar of his shirt. The employee with glasses just stares at the defeated guys with a totally cold, indifferent look. Then the girl with glasses drags the bloody criminal across the courtyard floor, where dozens of other intruders are shown totally wiped out. She happily waves at the hostess and lets her know she just finished cleaning up the whole outside area of the mansion. Wall praises her allies' good work, while the bruised hostage complains about the ropes hurting and how many goons were involved. Suddenly, the hostess's phone starts buzzing, signaling a new, super important notification for her investigation. Opening the device, Wall carefully checks out the details of the text message she just got from her boss. On the screen, Lee Sang's profile is listed as the absolute top priority target for the upcoming hit missions. The message also drops photo evidence, showing the young delivery guy casually walking next to Seonha near the school. Right after, student Seonha's full profile is also highlighted, confirming she's the main focus of the organization's hunt. With that, the hostess stares at the screen totally locked in, planning out the next steps for her deadly manhunt. Wall apologizes to the congressman for the massive mess in the hall and promises to treat him twice as well the next time he visits. The politician thanks her for the hospitality and says goodbye to the hostess as his luxury ride speeds away from the traditional mansion. Right then, the assistant drapes a jacket over Wall's shoulders and tells her that her ride is all prepped and ready to go. The employee asks if the boss's final stop today is gonna be the sketchy Seonchangdong area to keep digging around. Confirming her guess, Wall seriously warns that her work in the city today is gonna drag on late into the night. Then, the young woman watches the red sunset cover the skyline, knowing the next few hours are going to be incredibly dangerous. With that, the scene cuts to the massive front gate of the Jayabang, right in the heart of the Seonchangdong district. An older lady walks through the courtyard of the traditional spot while the staff sets up the place for business. Inside one of the rooms, the manager of the spot checks out a young recruit's face, pushing her chin up roughly. She rips into the girl's look, claiming her eyes look uneven and completely dead for this kind of entertainment work. The manager keeps judging, saying the young girl's lips look way too dry and have zero chance of pulling in the rich clients. Then she smacks the girl's back with a wooden stick, complaining her body is too skinny and her posture is totally messed up. She angrily decides the recruit isn't even fit to be a cleaner, but the chat gets interrupted by someone calling from outside. The boss demands answers right now about why the girls brought in for selection today are so low quality and why there are so few of them. Employee Kim Jong-cheol tries to explain himself, shaking with fear, claiming there was a hiccup at the high school they partner with. But he gets cut off by a devastating hit that violently launches him across the courtyard with insane power. The huge bodyguard Byun Yimin steps up looking scary and warns that disrespecting the boss is totally unacceptable. Sipping her tea, the boss mockingly says this incompetence is exactly why the guy is still just a low-level delivery lackey. Finishing her rant, she puffs her pipe and says if the guy couldn't score high schoolers, he should have found even younger ones. Furious, the boss asks how they're supposed to keep the business running if they let their supply of new girls dry up like this. Suddenly, the silhouette of an unexpected visitor pops up at the lit main gate, grabbing everyone's attention in the meeting room. A blonde kid in an orange jacket strolls into the place, looking super chill and confident in front of the armed goons. The boss stares at the kid, weirded out, trying to figure out why this basic delivery guy is acting so bold in front of her. While the security guards ask where he came from, the young guy apologizes for being late, almost slipping up and saying his real delivery service's name. Keeping his cool, the newcomer pulls an ID card out of his jacket pocket to prove who he really is. He introduces himself with the fake name Lee Bongjayu, pretending to be just another freelance delivery guy hired for the job. The guy says he heard she was looking to hire a new recruit and starts leading a mystery girl into the Jayabang's courtyard. The young girl in the traditional hat walks in silence while the blonde mentions it was insanely hard to get her to this place. With that, the delivery guy guarantees the boss is gonna love what she sees once she gets a close look at the new recruit's beauty. Taking off her traditional hat, the young girl reveals she's actually the student Seong Seonha, using a disguise to sneak into the dangerous spot. Flashing back a few minutes, the duo was walking down the tight, dark streets of an abandoned alley in the Seongchangdong district. There, a desperate young girl tries to fight off a creepy attacker, threatening to call the cops right that second. But the criminal laughs at her panic and claims she could make a massive pile of cash working as a jising at the Jayabang. The attacker mocks her threat about calling the cops, ironically pointing out that this dangerous area has absolutely no real laws. Right then, Lee Sang lands a heavy punch on the criminal's face, who is trying to harass the girl in the middle of the alley. Checking out the scared girl, Lee Sang mentions she looks like she's about the same size as his boss. Because of that, Seong Seonha complains about having to wear those traditional clothes, while the blonde wonders if they really need to go this far. Dead serious, the student replies that they really don't have any other option if they want the plan to work. Adjusting her jising hat, she explains this disguise is the only way to get in without putting a massive target on their backs. Looking at the limited intel on the phone, the duo remembers that the target Yoonjian is hiding somewhere in Seongchangdong. Lee Sang throws on a flashy orange jacket and states their only play is to bust into the place and investigate everything. As they step into the Jayabang courtyard, the local goons watch the two unexpected visitors roll up. Then Seong Seonha slightly lowers her jising fan, exposing her disguise to everyone in the room. Immediately, the manager of the place is completely blown away by the beauty of the young girl who just walked in. Checking the girl out closely, the manager notices her eyes are incredibly clear and expressive. She keeps admiring the recruit, praising her porcelain white skin and her silky smooth hair. The woman realizes the young girl's posture and manners are incredibly put together and elegant. Even standing in front of an authority figure, the girl doesn't drop her head once, showing a ton of pride. Hyped by what she sees, the older lady claims she's a rare talent who could become a top-tier jising. But the woman figures the young girl's body is too fragile and she wouldn't survive the hardcore training. Getting right up in the girl's face, the manager points at her eyes with a challenging look. She complains that the student's proud look is way too aggressive to show off to the rich clients. Running a finger under the girl's chin, the lady promises that she personally trained the absolute best jisings in the game. Screaming with excitement, the manager swears to turn her into the biggest attraction the district has ever seen. With that, the boss orders the giant goon to take the girl to the training room immediately. But a rock-solid hand shoots out of nowhere and grabs the giant bodyguard's wrist with insane grip strength. Dead serious, Lee Sang warns them that things aren't going to go down the way they want them to. The young guy points out he's the one who brought the girl and orders nobody to touch her without his okay. The massive goon is totally caught off guard by the kid's guts to actually step up and stop him. Feeling the crushing grip on his wrist, the big guy realizes the blonde's physical strength is absolutely ridiculous. Pissed off by the disrespect, the security guard winds up a brutal punch to try and smash the hero's face. Screaming in rage, the giant gets slammed headfirst into the courtyard floor with a single move from the kid. Seeing that, the manager chokes on her own pipe when she watches her top guy get dropped like nothing. The other goons whisper in panic that the blonde just challenged the spot's official protector to a fight. Confused by the chatter, Lee Sang just says he has absolutely no clue what any of that even means. Wiping away blood, the security guard states that around here, only the strongest guy gets to hold the power. He points to his sunflower pin and says plenty of idiots have already tried to steal that symbol. With a killer look, the giant dares the MC to try and take the pin from him by force. Charging in furiously, the guard throws a violent strike while screaming for the kid to try and beat him. Not showing an ounce of fear, the young guy just stares at his opponent totally chill and unbothered in the fight. With crazy reflexes, Lee Sang dodges the giant's punch, ducking at the exact perfect moment. Using the fast movement, the blonde slips his hand into his pocket to set up his counterattack. Landing a clean, hard hit on his rival's back, the young guy launches him hard into the courtyard wall. The big guy collapses on the ground totally wrecked, unable to process how insanely fast that hit was. Snatching the sunflower pin from the downed rival, Lee Sang asks if that was seriously all he had to do. Looking at the object in his hands, the blonde wonders out loud if he's actually forced to wear that ugly pin. Right then, the manager of the place stares at the guy sweating cold, absolutely terrified of his power. In a low voice, the woman mutters in fear that the two kids don't look like they're from this area. She asks straight up if they're foreigners, while Seong-seonha watches the whole thing in silence. Then the student points out their cover is blown and asks if they're gonna have to beat up the old lady too. Letting out a mocking laugh, the old lady tells them not to be scared because she couldn't care less about their plans. With that, the woman explains that this sketchy area welcomes any kind of violence or pursuit of pleasure. Ripping her shirt open, the old lady shows off her scars and points out that he just took her protector's pin. Dropping to her knees calmly, the older lady states that only the final outcome of a fight matters around here. The young guy stares at the scene completely horrified, not understanding this old lady's absolute madness. Screaming in a panic, Lee Sang complains about the old lady suddenly taking her clothes off right in front of him. With total pride, the old woman claims that losing her protector is the ultimate punishment for an old-school jising. Backing away terrified, the blonde screams telling her to stay away from him and says he doesn't want any part of this. Stopping the madness, Seong-seonha steps up and gets the kneeling lady's attention. Straight to the point, the girl asks if the old woman knows where the mysterious Yoongjin is hiding. With a super focused look, the student asks if she herself happens to be the person they're looking for. The old lady stays completely quiet, just watching the determined look on the young girl standing in front of her. Cracking a creepy smile, the old woman claims she finally gets why they actually showed up here. But she coldly warns them that the two kids are never gonna get the answer they're so desperately looking for from her. The old lady makes it clear she's not the target and that she doesn't know exactly where her rival is hiding. However, she promises that her enemy is definitely in the district and that only the elite jissings have actually seen her face. Looking serious, the young girl mutters to herself, trying to wrap her head around what being an elite jissing actually means. The old lady explains those women are insanely skilled, talented, and incredibly elegant. She mentions that sitting at the very top of this entire luxury syndicate is the feared queen known as Yoongjin. The old woman says the boss of the elite jissings is hated, but also totally respected by all the others. Then she drops a warning that those women's protectors are heavy hitters, and trying to jump them would be pure suicide. With that, the duo starts walking toward the exit, while the old lady watches them leave in total silence. Looking at the blonde, Seong-seonha asks if he managed to figure out what their next move is. Cracking his knuckles, Lee Sang says the game plan is to beat everybody up, until the bosses finally decide to show their faces. Agreeing, the girl says he learns fast and tells him to wrap it up quick because she's starving. Just like that, night falls over the massive luxury temples in the sketchy Seongcheongdong district. Inside the mansion, another one of the jissing's protectors hits the floor groaning in pain after taking a beating. Calmly, the young girl picks up yet another golden sunflower pin that belonged to the knocked-out opponent. Right after, she snaps a pic of the trophy with her phone to prove another job was successfully delivered. Holding one of the sunflower pins, Lee Sang complains they've already dropped dozens of enemies in this place. With that, the blonde says if he knew it was going to be like this, he would have charged a VIP service fee instead of a standard run rate. Looking around, the MC asks when the top-tier jissings are gonna finally show up, but Seong-seonha says she has no clue. Right then, the tied-up hostage Mi-won screams, asking if they have any idea where they're starting all this chaos. Unbothered, Seong-seonha just raises her arm and totally chilly replies she knows exactly where they are. She explains she tracked down about 10 sketchy spots in the area with massive red flags for money laundering. Pissed, Mi-won says if the profits are that huge, the odds of them being tied to the elite jissings are incredibly high. So Seonha tells her to hurry up and confirm if this place is a bust, because they have other leads to check out. Calling the two intruders crazy, the hostage angrily claims she has zero idea who sent them here. But she screams a warning that neither of them will ever be able to stay standing against the leader of that syndicate. Suddenly, the loud ringing of a cell phone echoes through the room, grabbing everyone's attention. Right then, Seonha calmly crouches down and starts patting down the hostage's clothes to find the phone. Pulling out the device, the screen shows an emergency call coming straight from one of the elite jissings. Desperate, Mi-won screams begging them not to answer, trying to say this whole mess isn't her fault. To shut the hostage up for good, Seonha grabs her jaw hard, completely stopping her from yelling. Answering the mystery call, the girl just listens in silence to what the person on the other end has to say. The voice on the phone gives a direct order to bring the hostage to the establishment's VIP room immediately. The second the call drops, Seonha hangs up with a sharp click and stares at the hostage. Glaring at the tied-up jissing, she sarcastically asks if the woman is seriously still not going to say where this secret room is. Completely gagged and shaking with pure terror, the prisoner can only breathe heavily without saying a word. Meanwhile, bright lights light up the luxury hallways of the massive banquet mansion. In front of two huge wooden doors, the sign marks the entrance to the mystery VIP room located in the basement. Inside the room, an expensive drink is poured into a glass, while one of the guests praises how good it smells. The politician makes some creepy jokes to the night's hostess, who just shoots back a sarcastic comment. Holding his glass, the man claims the classic idea of separating the three branches of government is a huge joke. The Seonchang congressman keeps up his cocky speech, complaining about how slow the country is developing. Vice Minister Kim Myung-ju laughs and agrees, saying it's way better when all the sectors work together. Chief Prosecutor Gong Cheolgi chimes in, saying their real goal should be absolute unity. Raising their glasses for a hyped toast, the men celebrate together, shouting their motto about uniting the powers. Right then, elite jissing Hwang Jai points her phone at the table and tells the guests to strike a pose. Holding a bunch of phones at once, the young woman says she's going to snap a pic on every single one of their devices. Then she tells everyone to smile as she gets into position to capture the group's party moment. The three allies pose with their arms around each other while she reminds them that if one goes down, they all go down together. Clapping happily, Hwang Jai calls the other jissings over to officially kick off the night's entertainment. She orders the girls to take really good care of the guests as they start drinking and partying in the room. Happy with the party's vibe, the young woman slowly backs away and watches the banquet unfold. But the vice minister complains loudly and demands to know where the specific jissing he asked for earlier is. Looking a bit awkward, the hostess asks for a quick second of patience while she tries to figure out where the missing girl went. Suddenly, a voice from the entrance of the room apologizes for the delay, grabbing everyone's attention. Pushing the doors open, Seonha walks in and explains the requested jissing had an emergency and couldn't make it. Showing her face from behind her fancy disguise, the young girl announces she brought a substitute to take her place. Far away from there, the beautiful afternoon sun shines on a massive luxury private pool at a mansion. Chilling in the water, elite jissing Yaoke scrolls through the news on her phone and finds it hilarious that a business rival crashed and burned. The purple-haired girl mentions her colleague was already getting way too old and took way too long to step down. Laughing mockingly, she calls her rival pathetic for not even being able to score a real protector. Relieved she never has to see her rival's face again, the young jissing hears a firm voice shut her claim down. Right then, the intimidating Chinggual shows up with her lackey and claims the old protector was actually super strong. Showing her phone screen, she reveals 3 of the syndicate's spots have already been hit. Next, the woman pulls up a pic of the MC and warns that the intruders are on the priority hit list. She adds she's absolutely positive the duo of criminals has already made it into their district. Pissed about the interruption, Yaoke turns around and harshly asks who gave her permission to bark orders around here. Chinggual admits they don't get along, but warns this isn't the time to let their egos ruin business. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl starts screaming frantically, calling for her protector. Standing in the water, she screams, telling the guy to stop hiding at the bottom of the pool and show his face right now. Underwater, a crazy jacked, muscular dude is shown meditating, looking completely zen. Moving slowly through the water, Protector Oh Hyun-soo starts floating up toward the surface. Using his massive physical strength, the big guy grabs the pool tiles to launch himself out. With a huge splash, he jumps out of the water at high speed, sending water flying everywhere. Splashing his boss, who complains angrily about the messed fighter, just wipes the water off his face, looking totally chill. Stepping out of the pool, Oh Hyun-soo complains he didn't manage to break his own record of holding his breath for 20 minutes. Screaming in annoyance, the elite Jising tells her protector to quit messing around and go find her wallet right now. Totally confused, the muscular guy just mutters something, not getting why his boss is suddenly in such a rush. On the other side of the pool, the rival watches that whole weird scene with a look of pure disgust and silence. Grabbing a towel, the big guy mockingly says he finally recognizes the visitor and her little lackey. Right then, the butler with glasses makes a super sneaky move with his cloak, getting ready to throw down. In a polite but threatening tone, the lackey says that as a fellow professional, he's going to drop some serious advice. But the muscular dude cuts him off cold and orders the two visitors to get the hell out of there instantly. Chungwal complains they're making things way too easy for the intruders and tries to pitch a quick fix for the situation. With lightning speed, the butler with glasses launches a sneak attack to try and drop the cocky rival. Blocking the strike like it's nothing, Yaok's protector repeats his order for them to pack it up and leave. The lackey with glasses jumps back, surprised to realize he's up against an opponent way stronger than he thought. With an ice-cold stare, the rival warns she's not going to tolerate any more disrespect inside her territory. Floating calmly in the water, the purple-haired girl curses the visitor out and totally brushes off her threats. She keeps mocking her, saying the rival disappeared for days and now just shows up out of nowhere trying to cash in favors. Glaring at the girl with a dark look, Chungwal tells her to get lost before things get really ugly for her. Then Chungwal tries to get her rival's attention, but protector Oh Hyun-soo tells her to chill, while Yaoke just keeps calling for her guard. With total ice in her veins, Yaoke lowers her sunglasses and orders her protector to end the visitors' lives if they say one more word. Hearing his boss's order, the muscular Oh Hyun-soo gets ready to fight with a look of pure focus. The butler with glasses realizes how bad things are getting, and also gets into a serious stance for the incoming clash. Feeling the insane tension in the air, Chungwal and her lackey realize they aren't going to get anywhere and decide to back off. Then, a loud thud echoes, showing they decided to leave the place for good after the failed attempt at a deal. Walking out of the traditional mansion, the duo heads in silence toward the car waiting for them. Then the luxury car speeds off, quickly leaving the rival's turf behind. Inside the ride, the driver suggests to Chungwal that they should probably just give up on trying to get help from the other elite Jisings. Deep in thought in the backseat, the boss admits she has a terrible gut feeling about everything that's been happening lately. The driver asks if she's talking about what went down 2 years ago, and she confirms it, saying the delivery guys are already grouping up. Staring straight at the horizon, Chungwal says in a dark tone that she can already smell blood in the air. Meanwhile, the car speeds down the busy avenue of the massive city. Far away, the young guy in the orange jacket casually pedals his bicycle through the quiet streets of the traditional district. Whistling happily under his dark helmet, the delivery guy Lee Sang goes about his routine, totally clueless about what's waiting for him at the drop-off. The second he pulls up to the massive mansion gate, the delivery guy can feel the vibe of the place is incredibly heavy. Inside the banquet hall, Seonha walks in disguise, catching the eye of a guy with glasses surrounded by a bunch of women. Keeping a confident posture, the student announces she's here to replace the Jising who is supposed to be serving the guests. Surprised by the rookie showing up, the other Jisings whisper, wondering who this mystery sub actually is. Meanwhile, the real employee Miwon is still tied up and gagged in another room, desperately trying to break loose. Suddenly, the drunk politician grabs Seonha's arm out of nowhere, leaving the young girl completely silent. Pointing at her super hyped, the man orders them to bring the girl over to his table right this second. The fat congressman grills her about her name, what she likes, and what kind of games she usually plays with rich clients. But when he gets a closer look at the girl's face, the politician with glasses freezes in shock at what he sees. Grabbing her chin roughly, the man stares at her, totally hypnotized by the young sub's crazy beauty. He screams in shock, saying she looks exactly like the late businessman Seong Joncheol's daughter, making everyone in the room look over. The other guest remembers seeing the girl at the funeral 2 years ago and comments that she really was a gorgeous kid. Reaching his hand out, the guy wonders if the real heiress is actually still alive and says this substitute will do just fine for what he wants. Throwing his arms wide in a super gross way, the politician tells her to pretend he's her dad and come closer to show off all her charms. Faced with the man's disgusting taunts, Seonha just stands there in dead silence, taking a deep breath. The drunk politician mentions the young girl seems to have an interesting personality and stares at her, waiting for her to make a move. Keeping her cool, Seonha starts pouring a drink into a glass and says she's going to recite a special poem for the guest of honor. Curious about the pitch, the fat congressman rests his face on his hands and agrees to listen to the lines with a cocky smirk. Holding the glass, the young girl recites verses about red flowers falling by the wall and their scent luring in lost travelers. She goes on to say she's pouring this drink to wash away every single one of his worries and problems for good. Totally mesmerized by the words, the man leans in, expecting to end the night in the best way possible. Suddenly, the student violently throws the entire drink straight into the fat politician's face. Completely drenched and totally confused by the random attack, the man just sits there frozen for a few seconds. Giving him zero time to bounce back, Seongseonha delivers a brutal slap that lands perfectly on the aggressor's cheek. The entire room goes into absolute shock seeing the substitute Jising literally assault the VIP congressman at the table. Staring down the floored guy, she asks if he was actually able to understand the real meaning behind that poem. With a dark look, Seongseonha explains the verses meant that today she's going to beat the fat guy to a pulp with absolutely zero mercy. Next to the table, the girl with short hair watches the scene, stressing out over the massive brawl that just broke out. Trying to lock down the rebellious rookie, the short-haired employee tells the guests she's going to punish the attacker immediately. Quickly, the defender charges in, trying to throw a strike against the rebellious student. Dropped on the floor, the congressman repeats in shock that he just got hit and loses his mind seeing the short-haired employee stop her attack. With his glasses flying across the room, the man lets out a twisted laugh right in the middle of all that chaos. Showing off his red, swollen cheek from the slap, he says in the grossest way possible that he's been dying to get punished like that. Seeing the VIP guest's bizarre masochist act, the short-haired girl backs away completely creeped out, not knowing what to do. Stepping up to her, the disguised student whispers that knowing the boss's weird kinks inside and out is literally a job requirement. Super chill, Seongseonha states that knowing this kind of stuff is just part of the basic training every Jising gets. Right then, the young girl's mind flashes back to the tragic moment. She stood in total silence at her beloved father's funeral. Back then, a bunch of guys in suits were walking around the hall gossiping about the family's tragic bankruptcy and what would happen to the heiress. Remembering that the funeral lasted exactly 3 days, the girl reveals she used that entire time to dig up dirt on every single guest. Watching everyone from behind, she memorized the life details of every powerful person who showed up to give fake condolences. She locked everyone's name in her head, collecting evidence and dirty secrets hidden right in the ceremony's guest book. Meanwhile, the scene shows clothes tossed all over the floor, showing how messed up the private lives of those powerful men really were. With that, she started putting together a file on the twisted, dark habits of every single one of her late dad's business partners. Gathering the secret evidence like a boss, she managed to map out exactly how rotten each of those influential politicians was. Laughing at how fake they are, she states she already knew full well that everyone there was nothing but a creep with absolutely zero morals. Holding a whip tight, the student gets ready to start the beatdown and asks which of the politicians wants to be the first one to get clapped. While all that chaos is going down inside, the massive door to the luxury VIP room stays totally shut and quiet. Far from there, the blonde Lee Sang shows up wearing a flashy jacket and a flower necklace, checking out the area. Standing in the middle of the traditional street, the young guy stares at a street food stall that seems to be the only spot open around there. With a look of pure whatever, the MC tries to figure out why the prices at such a basic joint are so insanely high. He complains about the prices and asks the cook for a solid discount, claiming he's planning on eating a massive amount of food. Annoyed by the customer's audacity, the Tdiokbokki lady points a metal ladle right at the kid and yells, asking who he's calling lady. The food stall owner harshly explains that her spot only caters to filthy rich clients who drop cash like it's nothing. Anxious to get back to his boss, Lee Sang mutters to himself that he needs to eat fast right here so he doesn't lose her trail in the district. Sipping her drink, the cook notices the kid's intense vibe and comments that he seems to be packing some seriously crazy energy. Giving him a sketchy look, she suggests the blonde should pay for his meal using that life force of his instead of actual cash. Leaning in with a sarcastic smirk, the cook claims that in this dangerous neighborhood there are plenty of different ways to settle a tab. Sweating cold over the creepy offer, the guy tries to play it cool while complaining about the woman's weird behavior. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from behind and slaps a cash bill down on the stall's table with a loud smack. The new customer in a traditional hat steps up to Lee Sang and places his usual order so the cook can start making the food. The blonde arrives at his usual food stall and the owner greets him happily, saying his order will be up in a sec. Right then, he notices someone grabbing a seat at the table right next to him and decides to turn around to see who it is. He just stares at the mystery man in dead silence for a few quick seconds, totally lost. Then this super weird guy shows up wearing a giant traditional hat with flowers covering his entire black outfit. With that, the blonde spots that the visitor has a blade on his waist and gets the vibe that this stranger might be seriously dangerous. At that moment, the newcomer holds up his fingers, signaling he has one more important detail to handle right there at the table. Introducing himself as Song Yopsu, he asks the stall owner to just make the kid in the orange jacket's meal already. Staring at his plate, the MC thinks to himself that people who buy you free food are officially the best kind of people on earth. Holding his hand out friendly, the stranger says he has exactly 3 simple questions to ask and wants to know if the kid is down to answer them. Eating super fast, the blonde agrees to hear the questions out since he just scored a free meal from this mystery guy. Adjusting his traditional hat, the opponent wants to know the exact name of the person the young delivery guy is protecting in this area. Trying to throw him off, the blonde claims she's just a regular jising named Hasian while the stall owner serves him. Chewing his food, he goes on to say that calling him a protector is a stretch, since he's just the guy who takes the girl out for walks. Noticing the fake flowers around the kid's neck, the man comments he looks like he's already taken out plenty of other protectors like him. Finally, the swordsman adds that he heard rumors about some mystery attacker going around jumping jisings and their partners in the district. With that, the guy in the hat asks the MC straight up if he's the one actually behind all these recent attacks. Hesitating for a second with his mouth full, the kid gives a confused answer, saying he probably doesn't have anything to do with it. Right then, the stranger points his index finger straight at the blonde's face to show he doesn't buy that answer for a second. The opponent wants to know if he plans to keep acting like a loyal jissing protector until his dying breath in this place. Then the MC completely shifts his posture and starts glaring at his rival with an insanely focused and serious look. The second the blonde answers yes, a lightning-fast slash comes flying right at him at the speed of light. In the blink of an eye, the wooden skewers the young guy was using to eat get sliced clean in half by the rival's perfect strike. Charging at top speed, the swordsman draws his blade to strike the blonde, who manages to dodge by jumping back fast. Stopping his swing, the guy in the hat warns the blonde he made a huge mistake, lying on all 3 of the questions he just answered. Holding nothing but the broken pieces of the skewers in his hand, the delivery guy seriously warns that from now on he's treating him like an enemy. Pissed about the mess, the food stall owner starts screaming at the 2 guys for starting a brutal brawl right inside her business. But the MC fixes the problem by tossing a massive wad of cash at her, which instantly changes her tunish, even offers to back him up. Checking out the broken piece of wood left in his fingers, the blonde lets out a thoughtful hum before getting back to the fight. With that, he decides to toss the rest of the wooden stick away and gets ready to take this rival way more seriously now. Throwing his hands up, the hero admits the opponent's speed and accuracy are way above that other driver he fought. He goes on to say that if he tried fighting that lethal weapon barehanded, he'd definitely end up losing his own wrist. The swordsman thinks the kid's confession is a bit embarrassing, but admits he's smart for knowing his own limits in a fight. Right then, the MC reaches out to grab some metal skewers lying on the table while remembering an old piece of advice. Eating the last piece of meat, he remembers that a real pro should never let pride get in the way of the job. Dropping into a boss stance, the blonde gets ready to fight using the metal skewers like they're actual combat weapons. Mocking the kid's move, the rival in the hat states that those tiny pieces of metal aren't going to be enough to stop his sword. Firing back at the taunt, the blonde claims a true pro knows exactly how to price every job and says this rival is worth a solid 5. Staring down the blonde's makeshift weapons, the enemy says all this talking and flexing is nothing but empty trash talk. Suddenly, the swordsman lunges like lightning at the kid, throwing a high-speed strike that cuts straight through the air in the stall. A violent crash echoes through the spot when the 2 weapons slam into each other with insane force in the dead of night. With the impact, the blonde manages to stop the sword's lethal attack using nothing but the strength of his makeshift metal skewers. Caught completely off guard, the opponent in the hat is totally mind-blown, realizing his charge got blocked so easily by the kid. Forcing his blade down with even more power, the swordsman tries to break through the kid's physical defense to finish him right there. Right then, an intense flurry of attacks kicks off, with sparks flying everywhere as the 2 warriors trade rapid-fire blows non-stop. Even under the insane pressure of the high-speed strikes, the MC stays ridiculously calm and focused on predicting the next move. The guy in the hat warns that it's way too late for the young guy to try any kind of defensive move against his blade now. Bringing down a vertical strike with everything he's got, the opponent tries to slice the MC clean in half to end the fight on the spot. But the delivery guy dodges effortlessly, stepping right up to the rival, and asks what he's been muttering about this whole fight. Trying to recover, the swordsman throws another fast side attack, but realizes his swing completely missed the target for the third time. He asks if the kid is going to be able to keep up this speed for long, claiming he doesn't look strong enough to back up all that cockiness. With lightning-fast footwork, the hero slides across the stall floor, shifting his fighting stance in a super strategic way. Stunned by the agility, the rival panics, realizing the blonde completely vanished from his line of sight like magic. Feeling the air pressure whip past his face, the warrior notices the massive danger of a sneak attack coming from behind. With that, the guy in the hat gets hit by a devastating punch that shatters his defense and completely throws him off balance onto the floor. Walking away chilling, the blonde casually points out that the opponent's distance control is totally garbage and full of holes. He finishes by saying the side of the adversary's body was left wide open and completely unprotected while he was trying to push forward. Groaning in pain on the ground, the swordsman curses out an ally, while the MC remembers the free tteokbokki he just ate. Because of the free meal his rival paid for, the hero decides to spare the guy's life and tells the boss he'll only give him one light punch. Turning his back on the knocked-out enemy on the asphalt, the young delivery guy starts casually walking out of the joint. Right then, he throws up finger guns pointed forward as a goodbye sign before fading into the total darkness. The blonde shoots one last serious look over his shoulder before completely walking away from that food stall for good. Meanwhile, inside the luxury VIP banquet room of the mansion, student Seong-seonha is still standing there in dead silence. With an incredibly focused and dead serious look, the young girl gets ready to start interrogating the surrendered politicians. Suddenly, the feared queen of the Jising steps in, literally stepping on the guys on the floor, and harshly demands absolute silence from everyone. Glaring at her subordinates on the ground with pure disgust, she tells everyone to shut up while the goons beg for mercy. The imposing Jising leader gives off a killer, super dangerous vibe that makes the entire VIP room feel incredibly tense. Staring the newcomer down completely seriously, Seong-seonha realizes she finally found the famous leader she's been hunting for. With ultimate arrogance, the queen looks at the young girl and calls her a brat for daring to start all this chaos on her turf. She accuses the student of seducing those powerful men just to use them as a human shield against threats. Flashing a cocky smile at the table, the student ironically claps back at the direct taunt from the dangerous crime boss. Slowly walking across the banquet hall, the intimidating woman in dark clothes gets into position to take total control of the room back. The queen coldly announces that from now on, she's the one who's going to be asking the real questions to the young intruder. Giving a dead serious warning, she advises the student to answer every single question carefully and tells her not to try anything funny. Right then, she points to the red collars around the politicians' necks, revealing those gadgets can be lethal at the drop of a hat. The woman wraps it up saying very firmly that if any kind of scandal leaks from here, this luxury business will be shut down instantly. Seong-seonha seriously warns that if the girl gets what's going on, she better start answering right now, demanding to know exactly where the mysterious Yoongjin is hiding. The other young woman lets out a mocking laugh and asks if the girl is seriously trying to threaten her. Right then, the girl with earrings presses the button on the remote she's holding in her hand super hard. The second she hits it, the politicians start screaming in absolute agony from the sudden pressure. The men panic, choking out that it burns and they literally can't breathe at all. Freaking out over the torture, the young woman caves and screams she'll talk, calling the student an absolute psycho. Then she asks if her rival seriously wants to murder one of the leaders, warning her she won't make it out of there alive. But Seong-seonha replies with total indifference that she couldn't care less about that, saying it would actually be awesome to wipe out all those dirty men with her own two hands. Staring down her terrified rival, the student asks if she's finally going to start spilling what she knows. Suddenly, a massive blast of smoke and debris rips into the luxury room after a huge impact. In the middle of the dust cloud, warrior Song Yopsu drops to his knees on the floor, spitting blood after getting clapped. The warrior apologizes for failing his mission while a mystery voice pops up, totally mocking the situation. Shook by her ally getting dropped, the young woman asks if her leader was actually attacked. As the dust settles, the student closely watches the entrance to the room, looking super suspicious. Right then, she asks if the newcomer is the delivery guy Lee Sang. The mystery guy just stands there in the dim light, rocking his pitch-black helmet. At that moment, the shot focuses on the delivery company's logo stamped right on his orange jumpsuit. Then the MC steps up looking like a total boss, holding a bag right in the middle of all that smoke. Super chill, the young guy announces that the delivery has finally reached its destination.